Hi guys, I left the dryer downstairs, so I hope that nobody takes my clothes. But anyway, we're back. It's episode 7 of HLTV Confirmed. It's the 14th of the 9th, 2020, in case you guys fucking forgot what day it was. And we're back with another episode. Now, I want to quickly go over what we have on today's episode, because some of you guys just audio listeners and you like it when I do that. We're talking to HenryG. We're going to be looking at the MIBR shit. Daps step down. Guardian apparently is ready to return. A little bit into the whole ENCE situation to do with the Major. There's been some updates over there. And we'll be talking about broadcast, what could be changed, what's looking good, and hopefully some fun questions when we get to the tail end of it. Now we can do the introductions. Lucas, why is everything on fire right now?
I have no idea. I just hope it all sticks together and we get through the episode in one piece.
That's the confidence we're looking for. Now, Striker, what is your favorite purchase in your new bachelor pad?
Probably the TV. I can't show it to you, but yeah,
the
probably
TV. That's what you've gone for. Of all the exciting things, what kind of TV is it?
It was just a 55-inch TV, whatever.
There
It's
you
not
go,
nothing mega amazing. I didn't buy too much stuff because like there was all the furniture was here and everything like that. So it's just like
All right.
I only spent like I don't know, like 3,000 euros on a bunch of stuff. So it's not like a massive thing that I.
That's all right. Yeah. He hasn't invested in a flashlight like me, so that's maybe we can get one of them in the future.
I was going to say that. I was like, that's probably not fair. But yeah, fair enough. The TV's cool as well. I know what I would choose.
The TV's pretty good. So, Prof, if I remember rightly, you're in a relationship. Am I right?
Let's just maybe.
Okay. So, what is the worst thing that is in your place that you haven't purchased?
Oh fuck.
I was there. I don't think there's anything, honestly.
No, this is a new place now.
Right. Forgot.
I don't know, like just like 30,000 plants.
30,000 plants. All right.
Just like too much plants.
Well, we do like the greenery around here, and look, let's continue forward. Henry, I normally want to do the introduction after we do this hot seat bumper.
Right.
So I'm going to run this bumper, and then we'll talk. All right.
Sounds good to me, mate. Whatever you want to do.
Lucas, press the button. Oh dear, it's Henry Greer. Have no fear, he's shifted a gear. Let's fucking cheer because he's here, motherfuckers. It's about time we got Henry on, and this one's going to be a wild one. Mr. Greer, how's things? How's the home? Is everything fine?
Yes, nothing really to report, Chad. Okay. I have been using your bedroom as an office and for other activities as well, I'm not going to lie to you. So that's all looking good. Don't worry about that. But yeah, ship is sailing smoothly here in Malta. Won't lie to you, it's a little bit lonely being in a country where you literally know 0 people. Imagine that. That's never really been, it's more like a social experiment, if anything. I've gone 2 months now, no human interaction. But you know what? I'm enjoying it. I'm thriving. It's allowing me to focus with laser precision on my task at hand.
All right. Well, we've been doing that in tandem. I had the middle of the year when it was sunny, and then you've come in when it decides to be a little bit rainy. So I think I got the better end of that stick right there. But speaking of sticks and all that kind of shit, look, let's get straight into it. Let's talk about all the nonsense that's been going on, because for the people who aren't familiar, you've stepped down, fully retired from the commentary side of things, which a lot of people are very, very sad about. Do you want to kind of, for the viewers at home who aren't too familiar with the story, kind of take them through what's happened in the last, let's say, month, I guess, for you?
Yeah, I guess there's a lot been going on, to be honest. If you followed me or Counter-Strike at all, you're probably aware of some of the things. Some of it I don't want to get into too specifically. But we'll focus on the commentary for now. Obviously, going into 2020, there were a lot of unforeseen events, as it were, worldwide. And I guess it all started with the whole Road to Rio / Pro League for you and I, Chad, where coronavirus kind of put it as a really unfortunate spot, and we had to be forced to cast online Counter-Strike. That's fine. Like, obviously, we could do nothing about it, but I realized that we're going to be that way for a very long time, presumably. And it just felt like, to me, it was a good time to kind of call it a day. I never really found myself that passionate about studio commentary. Like I'm sure most people agree, I do my best work in stadiums. That's where I feel like I can do all the hype work. I can work with the crowd. I have a good synergy with them, and I feel like I have a good bond with the game when we're in a stadium. I'm not saying I don't care when in the studio. I just don't feel as connected. I don't feel like it's the same experience. Even if it was a LAN game, I don't like doing the studio stuff. I think it's kind of underwhelming for me, at least. And then going to online, then a studio as well. So we've got online Counter-Strike, then a studio on top of that. I just lost my passion for it, to be honest with you. I didn't feel like I was doing a very good job. I felt like there was people that would rather be there than myself. And obviously with the controversy at the earlier in the year involving myself, that obviously had a big knock-on effect as well. But that's one of the things I don't necessarily want to get into too much here. We've kind of done that to death.
Yeah, we're beating that dead horse, haven't we?
Yeah.
So I think for people who have been fans of your work over the year and stuff, that it's a pretty big loss because we're losing a lot of talent lately. Jason's gone. Obviously, Yanko went a couple of years ago. You're another one. We don't see some of the other names around all the time. So with the decision, we obviously will get into the Cloud9 GM stuff soon.
Yeah.
But it's one that, look, you and I obviously talk all the time. And I know that wasn't a decision that was easy by any means, but for you to finally make that, was that something that you had done a while ago? Was that something that you had only really clicked on when this offer came through? Like, what was the trigger?
I'm not really sure, to be honest. Like, obviously, I've done this job for a long, long time. Like, it's like I was thinking about it today. I was in the shower getting ready for this show. I was like, "What, like, Striker? Do you remember we did that interview, like, unwrapping HenryG, like in 20?
Yeah.
Was it 2015? Like, that was like my first big interview on the scene. So it was just when I was coming up, and I was like, now as I'm coming down out of the commentary world, here I am, kind of discussing it, and it's kind of been a nice full circle. In terms of how long I felt jaded and kind of exasperated almost for this whole situation, I would say ever since like the Berlin Major is where I realized that this is probably isn't for me anymore. Like I realized that the shows aren't really evolving. I think that made that quite clear in some of the interviews I've made. And Chad, you've talked about this online as well. I feel like that the shows haven't really progressed. Like if I look back at even my first big event, which is ESO1 Cologne 2015, right? Compare it today. Sure, there's been some changes and stuff, but the ultimate run of show and how we kind of flow things hasn't really changed. It's kind of been pretty much where it's at, and that's fine. Like the problem is we have too much Counter-Strike, right? It's very difficult for us to ever make significant changes or go to the bunker and kind of come up with some new ideas. We're kind of just getting our show out there, a good show. Don't get me wrong, it's a good show we put out there, but it's like it's getting a bit stale now, especially with the landscape of Counter-Strike where we just seem to be throwing every game on every day, and it's just relentless, the same matchups. And for me, like the narratives were kind of getting almost diluted in terms of like we weren't really looking forward to these big names clashing anymore. And for me to kind of deliver those narratives and hype that up for a crowd, like it was just getting exhausting. Let's try and find new kind of dialogue to have with the audience and try and give them exciting new storylines because they just weren't there. Like they was beaten to death with the same teams. Like we couldn't even have an El Clasico anymore. We were having like Astralis Liquid like every other week at one point. It felt insane. So I guess after the Berlin Major, I thought that was really underwhelming, especially from my point of view, the way it was handled. I don't think it really went too well. It felt like it was a bit of a shit show. And I kind of realized then, as like, especially when I kind of stopped working with Matt as well, for me and Alex to grind up and be the number one duo, the amount of work it would take and how much more effort I have to go back into to make this as good as Matt and I were. I could feel myself dropping off. I felt like I'm definitely looking for new challenges. So I definitely wasn't actively looking for like GM roles or coaching or anything like that. But I certainly started like speaking to people about the idea of it. This was about 2 months ago, I guess. And it just kind of got to the point where a few people kind of recommended Cloud9 to me. And yeah, kind of here we are. I got talking to Jack and he said there's a good chance we could work something out. Would I be interested in a GM role? And I wasn't really sure if I was, to be honest. Like I felt like the GM role is such a dark art within esports, not even CSGO. No one can really quantify what that is. It's so different from each organization. It's not like traditional sports where the GM has a very clear role within the organization. I feel like in esports, it's just whatever you want it to be. Like you can just tell them they're the GM and the CEO can just give them whatever responsibility they want. And I guess for me, I wanted to make sure that if I was going to take this role on, it's going to be my way, and I'm going to make sure that I kind of make it a significant role in esports that is something to get excited about. And hopefully you guys have seen what kind of direction I'm going in.
Yeah, so that's where we're gonna head next. Before we get there, Prof Strike, you got any questions about the stepping down from commentary or anything with that?
No, I mean, I think I'm more interested in the part that comes next, right?
Sure.
So
Sure.
just take it on.
All right. Look, now for those people who aren't familiar, you've obviously just spoke about it there. You've picked up the GM role of Cloud9. You're building a roster. You've taken the old team, the US/South African squad. They're up for transfer, right? We get rid of them. But there's a new team that's coming on through that you're building, and Alex has been signed with Cassard. So, like,
yeah,
what look, you were just talking about this, and people were recommending Cloud9 to you. Were there any other offers on the table, or was Cloud9 the only one?
In terms of like genuine offers, funnily enough, most of them came in after I announced my retirement. Because obviously I didn't make a big thing about it. I didn't tweet out saying I'm looking for GM roles or I'm thinking about stepping down or anything. How could anyone know? I wasn't actively messaging and trying to get my name out there. I just spoke to a couple of people who were friendly with Cloud9, knew they were looking for something like that, and this introduced us. We kind of just brainstormed how we could make it work in the future, and we kind of just got there. In terms of offers, some big organizations did come to me, like I said, after the retirement. They gave me some really legit offers, but before I could even get deep into that conversation, I was already signed with Cloud9. So it was nice to be kind of thought about and kind of assess my market value, as it were, like what kind of interest there is. But to be honest, like Cloud9, like that was the dream. In terms of what I wanted to do and how I wanted to operate as a GM, they kind of gave me the keys to the car and said it's my journey, and it's just got to get them there to the destination. So all the responsibilities on me, and that's kind of what I was looking for. If I was going to do this, it had to be all in. It had to be everything, every decision on my shoulders. And if it goes wrong, happy to take responsibility. If it goes well, I want people to recognize that this has been managed correctly and the way I wanted it to.
I want people to understand for a second when they hear Henry saying like that about taking over the responsibilities, because the people in our roles, the commentators, the analysts, the hosts, the interviewers, whatever the fuck we do, we're literally just guns for hire, right? And that, I'm sure, was probably a motivating factor into wanting to go into something else like this, right? Because you know, like we sit here and you and I have fucking smashed our head into a brick wall hundreds of times. Same with Jason, same with Alex, same with everybody, wanting to make change within these different organizations that we work for. But because they just hire us, like, I don't know, a couple weeks for like historically before an event, you can't actually have any impact, right?
Yeah, it's absolutely true, Chad. That is one of the main problems we've had in the talent world, as it were. Like another thing that hasn't really evolved. Even you'd think, like you and I especially, like you'd think they'd be signing us up years in advance, right, for the big events. Like I've worked every single big ESL event for the last 5 years. I maybe bar a couple because I wasn't available or something clashed. Now you'd think like in this industry we would be contracted for the year. Like you'd think like they'd want to sign us up and maybe get a bit of a discount, kind of get everything kind of rolled up so everyone's got security. And it wasn't really the case there, to be honest with you, mate. It was difficult. Like even when you're I consider myself, when I was commentating in my prime, I was one of the biggest name in CSGO. You know, like I was one of the poster boys, many of these tournament organizers, and it just didn't seem like that was really kind of handled in a way that would kind of recognize that. It felt like they would still try and get us down to like the last couple of weeks before an event, before they could fully confirm things, always trying to bring the rates down and trying to guarantee like you're feeling a bit anxious about the whole thing. And to your point, we could have no real impact or kind of contribution to the show or working in months in advance because we wouldn't even know if we would be bloody working it. So that's another reason why the show's got stifled, I would say, because like the way that talent has been handled and hired has just been off kilter for a while now.
Wait, you remember this at the start of the year? We went in for a meeting and we got told our social media has no value. It's like, what the fuck are we even talking about? Like that's how we kicked off the year.
It has no value. I
value.
beg to differ.
We checked the numbers. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean.
Yeah. How many are you guys? How many followers do you guys have combined on Twitter? Something like 350, 400,000 or something like that.
It's mad. Like in terms of the value I know it brings, in terms of the numbers. If I showed you the social media numbers I had this month from all the shit that's going on, it's insane. I'm close to, like, in the month of September alone, I'm close to, I think, 10 million hits on Twitter. Like it's wild. The traction I'm kind of getting right now in terms of CSGO is still very active, and like what we're doing right now is super exciting. To me, that holds a lot of value, and I think that's a reason why the talent has kind of been brought into this side of the industry as well, because we do bring that brand value. You know, it's not just about my Counter-Strike mind. They want, like, I'll be honest with you, like I bring a lot of value to the table as well with my brand, my personality, and what I can do for the company in terms of getting attention. And the kind of, if you look at any other GMs of an esports, right? Can you tell me another name like kind of that's in it like me that kind of made this sort of impact and making a bit of a show of it? Like Chad, you tweeted out that I was going to bring some showmanship to the GM role, and that's it. I know the game, you know, like that's part of the deal. Like I want to hype everyone up. I want to be a little bit over the top and just make CS:GO like bloody exciting again, because right now we're in such dire times in terms of all the news that's going on. I wanted to change that. I wanted to make sure that everyone remembers that Counter-Strike is cool. A Counter-Strike can be amazing if we just kind of get past this bullshit phase we're in right now. Like, I want to remind people why we love it so much. It can be hype, and it can still progress even further. So for me, that was very important. So yeah, the social media stuff, having numbers, not the end of the world or anything like that, but having a brand value at a face, a personality you can bring to an organization, that's why it's an attractive prospect for the organizations right now.
I mean, you said something about like other GMs not bringing the same value. Like, who are the other GMs in CS? Like, I literally. Are there any?
I always do most of my thinking in the shower before the show. I was trying to work out like what other GMs like are there. I could tell you a few. We had Tommy or Lopez at MIBR when they first started. He was the GM, but now he is kind of heads up the Immortals gaming organization in general, right? I guess you have Natu and ENCE, but he's more CEO / GM.
He's the marketing director and co-founder. I just brought that up. Yeah.
So like in terms of actual GMs within CSGO, if there are some, they're mainly just managers that have been promoted to that role. And I've interacted with a few of them. A lot of them are just like good businessmen or people that were pro players maybe 10 years ago, and you're not really familiar with them too much these days. There's not many people doing it like me, which is like a public-facing role. And I think that's why I'm going to go off on a lot of tangents. I'm sorry about that. That's why when I announced Alex the other day and released his salary and stuff like that, like I wanted to make sure it was very clear it was coming from my channels. Like I'm the GM, it's my call, and it's just Cloud9 kind of pushing that out there on my regard. I don't think anyone's kind of operated like that before. You would assume that Cloud9 would go through their Twitter, would announce everything through there. I want to make it very clear, this is my team, my responsibility, and every kind of announcement will come through me. And I think that's really important to just kind of clarify that this is my thing, my operation, my project. And I take every responsibility that comes with that. So, yeah, in terms of other GMs in CSGO right now, there aren't many others that are doing it like me or of any at all. But I hope to change that and hopefully blaze a trail in front that shows everyone that this is a legit role within CSGO and an important one. So I feel like the management within these CSGO teams in the last 5 years has been abysmal. Like we've laid the foundations where we've got international teams that are kind of lineups that have been evolving after the last like 3 or 4 years, right? They kind of still got their foundations there, and it's kind of been plugging holes and changing things over time. It's all remnants of player-built teams, and then GMs coming in or organizations coming in and kind of fine-tuning that and trying to make it work for an international stage. I don't think anyone's approached it like me before, where I'm the first piece of the puzzle. I bring in the coach as well, and then we're building the team together, which with logic and kind of an understanding of the industry, instead of just trying to squeeze it all together, throw money and hope we can attract some big names. We're taking our time. Might not seem like it. We've been working on this for a while, and we've signed some really world-class talent. Obviously, you've seen Alex. I think that's the best pickup I could have possibly made for the IGL role, and that's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of big name value that's to come. So I think it's really exciting that we've got a chance now to kind of build this ourselves and show that this can be done properly if the right people are in control and you give them enough responsibility.
I'm just curious. One thing that people have brought up since you went out with those details in terms of Alex's contract.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's been a lot of doubt as to like what kind of numbers that entails. Sure. Considering like bonuses and stuff like that, that might not be easy to reach and stuff like that. Can you speak to that and what that number actually is?
Absolutely speak to that. Like again, I am aware of myself being in this position. I am not here to fabricate numbers or sensationalize everything that's going on. I'm aware, like, I'll get caught out. I do that. I've been very careful and very upfront. When I say I'm releasing numbers, I don't take that lightly. I'm trying to make sure that I'm modest of anything. I'm not trying to inflate them or blow them up or make it look like we're just throwing money around. That is not the case at all. The numbers that were released within that tweet are his salary total over 3 years, and it includes the transfer fee paid to Vitality. That is literally it. There are no hidden bonuses, any lawyer fees, anything like that. I can't even think of the amount of variables and speculation that are going on to how I've inflated those numbers are absolutely mad. Like, I can understand why people might think I would do that. But for me, I was actually worried about the number looking too big. I was like, are you sure we should add the extra 50K on? Like, I could, like, if anything, it was more than the actual numbers, more than what I posted, right? I was just like, I feel we should round it down. If anything, people are going to think I'm inflating it. It's, for full clarification, it's his salary over 3 years and then his transfer fee from Vitality combined in one. His bonuses are separate. He has a separate kind of HLTV incentive for the rankings. And
you know what the good ranking is then?
Yeah, that's not even included within. So that's like, in terms of the number I posted, like it couldn't be cleaner and closer to the truth than what I've said. And in terms of not releasing the transfer fee, unless I get permission from the other organization, I out of respect, I won't release it. But combining the deals together at least gives us a bit of kind of leeway to say you can't work it out specifically. But people have been pretty close. Like what you would imagine it is, that's what it is.
Okay. I mean, I talked to Jack actually in a massive interview that's going to come out. I don't even know when because there's a lot to process.
A lot of hours of conversation there, Striker. I'm looking forward to that one.
It's like an hour and a half of conversation that I had with Jack about all the stuff that's been happening with Cloud9 in the past 2.5 years. And obviously, he even talked about you for a long period of that time frame. And he mentioned how, like, within minutes of Alex's and of the announcement of Alex's contract details, CEOs came to him saying, like, what the fuck are you doing, man?
Yeah, dude. So, like, it's so funny. Like, that. I don't know why everyone's so scared. Actually, I do know why they're so scared to release the numbers. They want to pay their players less. That's literally it. They're worried their resources will be drained if they actually divulge that information, and that's understandable. It's uncharted territory, as I mentioned in a lot of my comments so far. But it's not fair on the players. Like, at the very top end, all the players are fine. Don't get me wrong. Like, the top 5 teams, everyone's getting a fair paycheck. You can't get away with it at that level. But if you get outside the top 10, kind of that sort of territory, that's where the water gets a little bit murky there. That's what we're talking about, development contracts. We'll get into that later. That's where we're looking at underpaid players that are worth a lot more. We've got organizations that won't even have a conversation about a transfer of their player, and they are paying them a pittance and housing world-class talent or potential world-class talent and hoping they can just hold on to them and pay them very little with a very unfair contract. So for me, like, that's why a lot of these organizations are worried about divulging this information, because it makes them look bad, because they don't want it to be public information how much they pay their players, because it's embarrassing. So it's not so much that every player deserves a massive paycheck and $30K a month. It's about paying a fair wage and assessing the market value. So when I release my Alex's deal value, it gives you an idea of what he's worth and how an in-game leader of his caliber should be paid. And that just scares people because it's such a large number. Trust me, that's what Alex is worth in today's market. In terms of an in-game leader, a world-class one that's been proven to be able to take a team to the top, that's what you're paying for. That's the market value. And although it's scary for a lot of organizations, that's going to be the way it goes forward. I'm telling you, like, other teams will follow me. I had to be the first one. Thankfully, that was okay with Jack, and we kind of planned it properly. But they're going to have to change as well. Like, we're going to continue to do it. We're going to work with the organizations we transfer with, but give it a few weeks. It won't just be CSGO teams either. You'll see across the board esports organizations copying our trend and moving forward with that. It's the only way to operate here. If we want to be taken seriously in the next 10 years of esports, we need to start giving out that information. It's for the safety of the players, making sure they get a fair deal and they understand their market value, which is, I couldn't even tell you why this amount of time. No one's done it across the board. It seemed like it blew up online. I was like, why is this such a big deal for everyone? Like, I didn't have to sit there for years thinking about this and crafting it. My first week on the job, it was my first order of business. Like, right, let's change things up. Like, why would we should be celebrating this fact? We're investing in what I consider a world-class player who's going to be fantastic for the organization. And this is how much we entrust in him. And this is what I think he's worth. And I'm happy to share that information so people know what kind of level we're operating at and how much we trust Alex.
But you are also coming from a really strong position, obviously, having a massive organization behind. Yep. So it's not like everybody's in that position where they can afford,
Well, if you want to house world-class talent, Striker, you have to have the resources to do it. If you don't have those resources, like, you shouldn't be taking in the top teams in the world. Like, sure. If your only team within your organization is CSGO, you're not going to be able to develop the funds unless you're an amazing businessman. I don't think you're about bring it all together. Like, you'd have to have a really, really strong team of a huge brand to have just a CSGO team and nothing else going on. So yes, I appreciate I'm coming from a very privileged spot with Cloud9. We are like one of the world's biggest organizations, but at the same time, it's not our problem that people can't pay their players enough if they're worth it. If you're housing world-class talent, you should be able to compensate them to the level they're worth, in my opinion. And that's the way it should be going forward.
I'm just curious about one more thing. Obviously, Alex, the whole reason for Alex leaving Vitality was that he wanted to, be able to pick and choose the events they go to and stuff like that a little bit more. And obviously, Cloud9 is not it's not in the Louvre agreement, is not part of Blast. Yep. So that's obviously going to help things. But is that something that's obviously a risk that you kind of take on Alex in that perspective? So is that something that you considered and talked to him about?
Absolutely. Alex was just burnt out from remember 2018, 2019, it was absolutely mad the amount of events you and I just did, Chad. We were on the road all the time, bro. It was insane, and it was the same for the players as well. And remember, once the tournament's over, the players aren't just excuse me, they aren't just going back home relaxing for a week. They're going back in and slogging away for the next event. I get it. It's difficult. It's really hard. And in terms of the burnout, as you mentioned, we're not an ESL team, or the Lightning's coming back. Watch out, Power Cup fans.
Oh dear.
And in terms of not being an ESL team or a Blast team, trust me, they're going to invite us to their events. They're going to have to. I'm going to blow this shit out the water in terms of the brand value of this team, how much hype we have for it. They're going to have to involve us eventually. And I'm happy to handpick the events. I don't want to go to every single one. I want to go to the events that make sense. And hopefully that will be reflected on. So we're going to be focusing on Flashpoint to kick things off. Once that's confirmed, it should be in November. And then, to be honest with you, I will work with the team. It's not I'm telling them we've been pressured to go to every single event and get it out there. I've been given the responsibility of choosing these events. I am working with Alex, my captain, and Kassad, and we will kind of handpick the events we want to be at, the ones we're going to try and push to be invited at. And I will do everything I can to make us the most exciting team in the world, so we get the invites to the events we want to be at.
I think this is what's... Oh yeah, go for it, Prof.
Yeah, I want to ask, when you mentioned you're going to be picking events and stuff like that, people asked about your role as a GM. How much does that include solely the functioning of the team, the results? Is it also something regarding the financial part of the team, working with sponsorships and making the team financially profitable? Is that any of your concern, or is it just the results?
It is, of course, something I have to consider. I have a certain budget I have to stick to for each year, and I have to remain within that budget. And my job, I know, as a GM, is to build the CSGO wing of Cloud9 bigger and bigger, back to what it was. That's my mission. I want to take us back to a top 10 team. I want to bring this back to the prestige we once had. And that has been lost. There's no two ways about it. It's been flushed away in terms of the lineups we've put out there the last couple of years. It hasn't been good enough. It hasn't lived up to expectations. Some good punts, some good potential, but ultimately they haven't delivered. It's not like they're bad teams that have come through. I'll say that with bated breath. The current team is not. I don't consider them a bad team at all. I don't think the current squad we have. But I feel like they have got great potential. They just need more time,
you still
and more
have
experience.
To sell them, so you can't really say that they're bad.
Well, no, I can say absolutely anything, bro. Honestly, I'm not trying to hide anything up or anything. I tried to take OC and Floppy into this new squad of mine. I think they're world-class players and they have the potential to do so. But they wanted to stay as a 5, and there's a reason for that. They do believe they can make it. And yeah, certainly RMR points came into it as well. But ultimately, they feel like they're not done yet. They want to still prove themselves. They weren't at the level, in my opinion, that represents Cloud9 and what we're trying to build as a 5-man squad, and they were given 8 months and they didn't really deliver on that promise. That's not to say they can't continue and find success. So for Cloud9, I would say it's like the Manchester United of esports. This is a big brand. You want to play here, you've got to deliver, right? You have to deliver. And we can't just keep waiting. So yeah, for Cloud9 in the future, it's about building that brand back to where it was, back to the prestige in CSGO. It's still there in esports, but we've lost it in CSGO. And for me, that's the main focus. And then with that will come financial success, to answer your question. But for me, it's bringing back the name within our industry and our scene. And hopefully I'll be able to do that. But in terms of other responsibility, everything you can imagine that's involved within running this side of the business, I'm responsible for. Pretty much everything that comes with a CSGO team. I have staff that work beneath me. I delegate the work out, and any huge picture stuff I'll work with Jack on, and kind of we'll work together on it. So yeah, everything and anything you can think of. But generally speaking, sponsors and getting those kind of things in, that will be Cloud9 at the top of the pyramid handling that.
Are we able to work in a sleeping on Cloud9 meme somewhere in there? Maybe we could do a pajama set. I could wear them. I could
That's not a bad idea.
Sleeping on a Cloud9.
I was definitely going to bring back the kind of the vest for the summer, the 2015.
Okay.
That's what I wanted to bring back at some point. I think some blasts in the past are definitely a good idea.
Yeah.
Pajamas though, that's a very interesting idea. I like that. Would it be more like a gown, like an old school, that a Victorian?
I think so, with the hat, the little hat.
Exactly. That's what I think we'd go for. Yeah, sleeping on Cloud9.
If you want to sleep on Cloud, maybe just like a mattress.
We could do that.
Full Cloud9 mattress.
There's a lot we can do with this, isn't there? Yeah.
All right. It's like comfortable because like a cloud and all
Just
of that.
talk to the marketing department, man. You're going to be able to come up with some good shit.
All right. So I think what we can look at now is to do with the building of the team, because you've obviously started with the first announcement was yourself with Kassad, so like the coach at the top of the pyramid. But I think that obviously Alex was the mantelpiece, right? Like this here is your star on top of the Christmas tree. That was the idea here.
Absolutely. It was all like I knew I needed a solid in-game leader. Like, bear this in mind. Sure, I have the power and finances of Cloud9 behind me, but I also don't have a roster. You know, like coming into this, I didn't have anyone. I didn't have a couple of players to 10 people in with. I came in with nothing apart from me trying to ring people up and say, all right, mate, you interested in building a brand new CS team and just kind of starting all over again? That's where I was at. So for me, I know I needed someone that trusted me and knew what I was capable of. And I've known Alex for a very long time. He was a Source player as well, actually. So he's been playing a lot longer than people might know. He's been playing since he was 14. So he's been kicking around. Him and I have known each other for a long time. I really respected what he did with Vitality. I think he really grew as a player in his tenure within that squad. He got a lot of experience. He's got a very sensible head on his shoulders now. He knows what it takes to build a top team. And for me, like to attract other players, I had to have Alex. I feel like so many other pros respect him. Trust me, everyone I've spoken to about the interest of the team, their first comment is, well, you've got Alex in, so I'm already interested. Like that's how much respect he has within the scene right now. A lot of pros think he does great work. So yeah, definitely my mantelpiece. He's my team captain. He works with me the closest in terms of kind of where we're going in the direction of the team. And he's under a 3-year deal and working very closely with me every single day as we continue this journey. So yeah, definitely the poster boy of the squad.
So I have another one here with Alex. Was there like other interest in him? Were you the only one trying to get him? Because there's a couple of teams out there right now.
Like that was one of the wildest kind of negotiation processes ever. We had 5 or 6 big names. I will not throw anyone under the bus, but big names gunning for him. Like if you can imagine some of the top 10 teams right now, it might have seemed like everything's great over there, but there is a fundamental problem within CSGO right now of a severe lack of in-game leaders, or competent ones, I should say. So everyone has realized that in this period where we're kind of a little bit all over the place with online Counter-Strike and stuff like that, they're trying to retool and kind of re-energize their team. And bringing in a player like Alex would certainly do that. They need a fresh start. A lot of these big teams that have spent a lot of money. So yeah, it was a bidding war out of control. Like I didn't even have the highest bid, to be honest with you. I was nowhere near the highest bid in terms of what I was going to offer him and how we were going to go forward like that. I had to work for weeks with Alex, just kind of convincing him my mission and my kind of vision for the entire squad. I've told him many times that when I do something, when I commit myself to a project or an idea or a career, I give it absolutely everything I've got. There is a reason why every career I've done in the past, I've become an industry leader in, is because my passion and my development and making sure that I will not fail. It's just never been an option for me. So for me to take on a new responsibility like this, I had to just give him my word that this is my legacy on the line. This is everything I've built up in my commentary career. If I fuck this up and it all goes wrong and I don't give it enough attention, or it turns out I've been lazy or I've made bad decisions, that will reflect really badly on me. I've talked a very big game for a very specific reason. I'm making sure that I keep myself in check. I know it seems a bit egotistical what I've done online and stuff, and I admit it is, but it's to keep myself in check. I want to make sure that I'm aware that everything I do, it might be a lot of bravado behind it. It might be a bit over the top sometimes, but it's to remind myself to work at this absolutely every single day, give it everything I've got, and make sure this doesn't slip out of my grasp in terms of my focus and concentration. And that's why with the deal with Alex, I think he believed in what I was doing. My knowledge of the game, the relationship I have with the players, I think is a very big part of it as well. I don't think there's any pro out there that will have a bad thing to say about me. We have a very good mutual respect. And I feel like, yeah, another tangent, sorry. To go back to the original question, that there was about 5 or 6 big organizations. I was the only one going in of no roster. There was one other org as well, to be fair. They didn't have me in steering the ship. They had like one of their business development guys leading the operation. And it just got to the point where like Alex knew what my goals were. He obviously loves the Cloud9 brand. Everyone does. And when we got the job done, it was like, for me, that was like in our first couple of days in the job, being thrown into the deep end of a deal like that. It's such a complicated procedure. Like trying to get that deal over the line. Like I learned a lot, Chad. This is like baptism by fire. That sort of deal. Wasn't this like a clean, like, here's a contract, mate, you sign that, we'll sort that out. This took 10 days of me working 12 hours or so, just back and forth, just like trying to make it happen, convincing him, ringing him up, just trying to promising him, ensuring him this was the right choice. And very difficult considering some of the names I was up against. But honestly, I'm super proud we got him in, and I think it kind of sends a clear message as to why this could be so successful going forward, because he's heard everything and he knows what I'm building and what we're trying to do. And I hope that's reflected in the final product, because some of the names that are coming out in the next couple of weeks are also going to add to that kind of hype and excitement.
I think it's been made pretty clear that you are setting players. You want certain players, certain roles, and obviously with the job that you had before, it's quite clear that you have a good understanding of how you want Counter-Strike to be approached from at least a personnel level. But outside of that, right? So like, I'll just quickly summarize that for people who maybe don't get what I mean. You want an AWPer. You want like a main AWPer. You want like somebody who's going to be an anchor and clutch player. You want somebody who's going to be that in-your-face entry frag. Like, you want all those bases to be covered. But my question is going to be more tailored to, let's say that this roster, you're bringing them together and shit's not working. Like, who's you're just cutting and chopping and changing players whenever the fuck you want. Like, is this just the HenryG? Nah, sorry mate. Like, I don't care if Alex wants you to stay, you're out. Like, what's going on there?
Chad, you've asked the $1 million question there. You've activated my trap card. Hey. I had got a bit of an announcement to make. So in the future now, it's a bit of a trend at this point, kind of adding in a sixth player, kind of when you need to, when things start to fall apart. I plan to actually announce a sixth player as we kind of open up shop. When we have things going, I'm going to have an active sixth player who's not going to be like on the bench, as it were. He's going to be kind of actively playing. He'll be more of a brand ambassador while we're kind of setting the operation up and getting the team stabilized. He'll be actively ready and working with us in practice. And then the idea is going forward that I want to have someone that's there if anything goes wrong. It's not to keep the players on their toes or anything like that. It's like you said, if anything does fall apart, the world's proven to be very unpredictable. If we have travel issues, if we have someone that falls ill, I'm going to have a very, very competent player who understands he's a sixth man and knows the role and knows everything we'll be doing. And he's a very versatile player. And that's my plan. I haven't signed that player yet, but I have got a short list of players I want to bring into it. So in terms of, sure, I can't tell you right now my 5 players are going to be absolutely amazing out the gate. I haven't even signed all 5 yet. But in terms of the methodology we've used to build this squad, like I said, bringing Kassad first, starting with the coach, I think is a bit of a declaration of intent of how we plan to operate here. We're not just throwing money at all the players, trying to get the biggest names in. We have established, like, if you saw our spreadsheet, I wish I could share that with you. Maybe one day I will. We've got like every role defined, every player we'd like in that role. And have you ever played FIFA Ultimate Team before, when you have like all the players lined up and it shows like the synergy lines, and it kind of goes green and stuff? That's kind of what we're trying to bring in with a CS team. We're trying to work out how are these guys synergized together. Have they played with each other before? Have they worked with Kassad before? Have they worked in an international arrangement? And we're trying to focus on making sure the players get their specialist role. That's my dream. I want to make sure that every player comes into this with no compromises. I want to have world-class talent. I want to have the biggest names, but I want to have names that make sense. I don't just want to pick someone up for the sake of, oh, imagine if we got him, that'd be so sick. It would be to have like a crazy big name. But at the same time, that name has to make sense and it has to fit in with our kind of vision of how a CS team should be built. And I want every player going into this to have a contribution as well. If they feel uncomfortable with a certain role coming and being taken over by a player they don't think can necessarily facilitate that, that's a problem. Every player in the team right now that is signed, I have meetings with them daily about which players we want to approach, how they're going to fit in, what role they would do. And then before we even have deep conversations with the new players, we make it very clear the roles we're trying to fill. And we make sure we focus on players that specialize in that particular role. So going forward, that's something I don't think is done properly before. I feel like I said, the remnants of all these international squads all started with player-built kind of projects. If you look back, let's use FaZe as an example. That kind of ancestry goes right back to what, Kingwin? And that's kind of like where it all began as a player-built kind of project. And they've kind of been evolving that international squad up until the point they are now. So sure, like it's no disrespect to FaZe or anything like that, what they do now. But like in terms of where they come from, their DNA, like it all came from a player-built project and they've kind of just been evolving as time goes on, right? I do not want to have that. I want to make sure we're from day one, we are coming in with the 5 players we want. We are saying this is our squad. This is it. This is the 5 that makes sense. And we're going to dedicate our time to making this work. And I'm not going to have that bullshit excuse like every team uses comes in and goes, oh, we just need another 2 months. We just need another month, whatever. Like, I don't think that's good enough. I just think you just haven't created the right team. You haven't worked hard enough and you're just making an excuse at this point. Time is just not a factor for me. I think, sorry. I haven't talked this long for a while.
Yeah, it's been a while,
voice box hasn't been warmed
up. 4
up.
months now?
Yeah. Where was I? So yeah, I don't think time is as big as a factor as people make it out to be. If you work smarter, not harder, you can get the job done. We're planning on having a boot camp at the beginning of October. And trust me, that will be the most efficient boot camp you've ever seen. My only objective is to win Flashpoint coming up. Like, I don't think anything else would be a disappointing result. I'm not coming in saying, oh, the top 3 would be good. I know I'm setting the bar high. I am very aware of the pressure I'm putting on myself and the team. The team I've assembled, though, you will agree once they're announced that's what we should be aiming for. And I feel like with the Cloud9 brand, it's about time someone came in and said we're going for the trophy instead of developing a team for 6 months. This is what the team needs. We need a shot in the arm. We need focus, and we need to have objectives. And I feel like winning Flashpoint Season 2 should be the very minimum of our objectives, considering the lineups that are currently out there.
All right. Prof, Striker, anything on the lineup before we move into the recent news?
So many questions. It's hard to.
All right.
Yeah, go for it. Out. We can say.
Yeah, we can delay the other shit. There's no rush.
Yeah, the whole schedule for the show is like in the dumps already. So it doesn't matter. Short question. So you mentioned the 6th player. The way you talked about him sounds like it's not going to be some youngster. It's going to be like a more experienced guy, because like everyone in chat was just like spamming names. Cloud9 nothing. Yeah, like literally every player that exists was spammed in the chat.
It'll be an established player, not necessarily a seasoned veteran, but it'll be someone that knows that they could make it to the main roster if it came to it eventually. Like
we need to get him some Jello Revoice. I don't know if they sell that in Malta, Henry.
Yeah. So for the squad, it's going to be. I haven't defined that person yet. I don't have them in mind, but I know the kind of. I have a short list of players I'd like to be in there. Someone who hasn't quite made it yet, but has explosive talent, but good experience as well. Their career potentially not gone the direction they wanted it to, but they've been to lands. They've been to big tournaments. They've seen it, but not quite made it. Perhaps. Working with the squad, coming to our practices, making sure that they are available to travel. They have to be a player that's not going to have any visa issues. So for me, that's going to be just having a backup plan if we need it. If things go wrong, like I feel like it's always got to that point. Like I don't want to be in a position where Kassad's having to put the jersey on and kind of come in last second to try and play. Like he could definitely handle himself out there, but I just don't want anyone to be put in that position if we can help it. Having a 6th player could really help us out. But again, I have not decided that player. I haven't even got a 5th yet. It's just something I want to do in the future to make sure I can protect the players from burnout and any unforeseen circumstances.
So good visa availability, experience, but not too old.
Yes,
has good talent as a player. Yeah. Been there, but not like fully. It's obviously Pimp.
It's the perfect woman.
It's Pimp.
Pimp would be a good shout, actually. I don't mind that.
Brand ambassador as well, right?
Yeah, that's actually not a bad shout, mate. I don't mind Pimp. That might be a good shout.
There we go. Jacob, I know we had our differences,
get him on the blower.
But like 5% on this contract, like I think it's fair. Thank you very much.
That's not a bad shout, to be honest. That wouldn't be a bad call at all.
Yeah, and just like there are a lot of like viewer questions, actually good ones for this one. I think the way you said already, I think it's understood that the team is not fully set yet, and that they didn't start practicing. So I guess the idea is for this month you finalize the roster and then you head for a boot camp, start practicing and stuff like that, right?
Exactly. I should have the full roster. I've got about 15 days to do it. I think I can do that. I set myself a very ambitious challenge. I was given the option when I first joined Cloud9. Do you want to make a team for Flashpoint? And I was like, okay, give me the details. And I looked into it. It's $1 million tournament. Like the level of play out there is not amazing. I can be someone that kind of comes into that tournament and brings it back to life. I think it needs a shot in the arm. I think I can do it. I think I can build a team in that time. I might not necessarily have the full 5. It might be a couple, maybe one compromise for the 5th seat, something like that. But I am going to be bringing at least a very competitive team, if not my final form. Like I have all the pieces in place to bring my final form together there. But it's a short time frame. It might not happen in that. And I just hope it will. So yeah, it's going to be a difficult challenge, but one I don't think is impossible or even going to be improbable. I feel like I can do this. I wouldn't be taking on that sort of pressure unless I thought I could follow through with the boys. So yeah, it's going to be short time frame, but it'll be fine. I've got this.
All right. You got any more for him, Prof?
I don't know. Like I forgot. Like I had others, but I forgot.
We can. I'm here for the whole thing, right? So we can come back to it. If you want to throw anything in,
we got play time at the end where we fucking throw shit around. So we'll probably get there. Strike, you got anything?
We can take a break and all that. Come back to it. Think of your questions. Bring them into the chat. Tweet them at me if you want. I'll answer them for you. It's all good. Bring them in.
But we can come back to it at the end. It's
all right. Let's keep it moving. Lucas, roll the bumper for the recent news. All right, we're back. So we're talking about the recent news, and there's been some news overnight, and looks like a GM over there in North America has finally pulled their fucking finger out, ladies and gentlemen. The sentiment on the internet is, oh, we hope the legends can, bounce back and everything, which is fine. All the players, obviously, we respect them. We all respect what they did for their country, for the scene. They were legends of the game. But unfortunately, in recent times, they've definitely besmirched that legacy. And this is MIBR I'm talking about. I don't think anybody can really fault that logic. They have really dragged their own names through the fucking mud. So let's kick this one off. Henry, as a newly appointed GM, how late did this decision come in, do you think?
Oh, man, it's a rough one, isn't it? I feel like they've been riding the coattails of their success for this way too long. Like the way they talk about the majors.
The trophy cabinet, Henry, the trophy cabinet.
Like I respect the hell of what they did in that kind of period of time and what happened there, but they did not win the World Cup of football for Brazil. Like that's the kind of level, the pedestal they've put it on. Like the major's amazing, don't get me wrong, but it's not like you kind of made like world-changing history or anything like that. It's a great accomplishment and it was significant at the time, but those days really kind of have dropped off. No one's thinking about that too much these days. And in terms of the dysfunctional behavior that's been going on, and obviously the controversy with the whole coach situation as well, like they had to go at this point. Like it was just getting outrageous, like how much of a PR nightmare they're becoming. Not for anything else, even though the results were terrible as well. That was just a kick out. Like the bad PR they were getting, like for me as a GM, that was giving me sweats just reading it. So it's like the tweets that were coming out, the arguments they're getting in, like it just seems so pointless. Like some of the discussions and arguments are going on Twitter of all places. Just if you're gonna be a professional player representing a brand, just probably leave Twitter alone. If all you've got is vitriol and kind of disdain for your colleagues and you feel like everyone's at you, if you feel like everyone's coming at you, just take a step back and focus on your game. I think like they got too caught up and all of the other nonsense that comes with being a pro player than actually just playing the game. That's reflected on their social media and indeed the server. So to answer your question, probably about 6 months, I would say, in terms of this change had to come in. Like I felt like they left it go a little bit too long.
Striker, can you summarize for everybody at home a little bit more succinctly than I of what went down? So for last night?
Well, essentially, Fair Tackle and Dead were released by the organization, as far as we understand. And then Fallen didn't really exactly agree with that. Gen.G clearly didn't either, but Fallen actually went out to say he stepped down as well. So that basically leaves MIBR with their two newest players, essentially, which is Gen.G and then TRK. So all of the remnants of the old MIBR, old SK are now completely gone.
So basically, Prof, all the money that they invested in the brand name, based off of the legacy that they had built as a team, gone?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much they invested into like buying out the MIBR brand and all of that.
They invested a lot into buying Gamers Club. Let me give you the hot fucking tip.
Yeah, I don't know, like they probably got some of it back in terms of like the fan base, because the fan base of MIBR, even now, like you had Pro League games going on with like 100k viewers, 80k, and then you had MIBR playing in like 9 to 5, 3 with like 55,000 viewers. So they obviously still had the following. That is something that was going their way. But I found it kind of funny almost. It felt like they even wanted to probably remove Fallen, but they probably couldn't. So they just removed everyone else and kind of forced him to step down because they knew, as if they knew that this was going to happen, right? I don't know.
I'm not sure that they wanted to kick Fallen, just because he's somebody that you can still build around. He's somebody who can still be able to, who should still be able to put a team together. And unlike, Fair and Taco, who are more of a like role fillers, obviously, Fallen, I think, was too big of a piece to try to replace in the current in the current state of the scene.
I mean, Gen.G is just leading anyway, and probably opting better than Fallen,
that's right.
or maybe on a similar level. So it's like
I forgot he was game leading even completely, just like completely.
I mean, this is obviously just like a test thing, so it's who knows if it's gonna stick or not. But it's not like the results were better with Gen.G now in game leading. Yeah. They weren't. But yeah,
where does the org even go from here though? Because like
it's fucked.
By very definition, they are made in Brazil. They definitely not gonna be stepped away from that before with Stewie and Tarek. But now you really have to have some Brazilians within your ranks. You've lost your jewel in the crown as well with Fallen. Like that, where do you go now? Because obviously the Furia players have 5-year contracts, probably 3 years now, so they're not going anywhere. You've got the guys, which are already owned by a few of the players that were in MIBR, so I don't think they're going to be switching over, anything like that. Like, I just don't even know where you'd even start this project again. I don't even know how to bring it back to life. It's such a massive, colossal bit of news here. I don't know what is going to be the solution. Like, I don't know where they'll go with this. Is it even worth bringing it back?
Here's what they do. They turf it all, right? They fucking throw it all in the bin. Then they rebrand to Immortals. They get me on the phone. I'll come through. I'll do a fucking HenryG. Immortals is already a sick name. I'll get Dexter and I'll start building a fucking team. And we'll just go to war with it all, mate. No, because you're right. Because the rest of the Brazilian scene, if there was talent there, they would have gotten other players, right? Yes. They tried Mayan. That didn't work. He's not even fucking Brazilian. They tried TRK. He's okay. He's
underwhelming
okay.
though, right? It's another situation like with Cloud9. When you've got a big brand like that, you expect results. We do not have time to bring rookies up to the level where they're going to be acceptable, right? If he's okay, that's underwhelming. Even for a rookie, I want a rookie to be exciting and explosive and big, like making headlines and stuff. That's what you're looking for with a rookie that enters MIBR. The names they've brought in, always been underwhelming. That's got to be like the most unenviable seat within CSGO right now. You go into there, all the pressure's on you, the spotlight's on you to perform. If you don't, you go in first. You're on the chopping block. And that's just been the way for what, like 6 months now, maybe a year. It's just a nightmare seat to fill. I think I agree with you, Chad. I feel like the organization should just rebrand, go away from the MIBR name, maybe just do something more with the Immortals brand and go for a new international project, because I don't think this is salvageable. If you ask me, I don't think it is.
It makes sense. Like, it all comes down to, like, if they paid out that 200K for K Serato like 2 years ago, who knows what would have happened, but they decided to not. That was too much. Maybe at the time that was too much for a buyout, but seeing what is going on now and even last year, I don't think that was unreasonable. It is unreasonable kind of from the perspective of him being a young and unproven player on the international scene, but he had all of the things that made everyone think that he's going to be good. It's not like he was just like a random player that was like a 1-0 rating in Brazil. Like, he was owning everyone. So yeah, you miss out on like one opportunity like that, and then the other doesn't really show up.
Well, I mean, Henry was talking about like them being 6 months late. I think it's a year and 6 months late, because that was a year ago. That was the time where they were looking for Furia players. Oh, maybe a year and a half ago now even, was when they were looking for Furia players, and Furia were starting to come up, sign that 5-year deal or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And obviously that's when you know you fucked up, when you've let those players slide and just waited for way too long to, you know, reach out to try to get a K Serato, to try to get a Yuri, or even like literally almost anybody else from that team. So it's just like, that's where they missed out. That was the last opportunity that they had to salvage this situation, I think, because at the moment I don't think it's. I mean, I'm incredibly familiar with the Brazilian scene below the top, so I'm not even sure if there is somebody else who they could pick up from like one of the lower tier teams. But obviously, Furious would be the ones that you would look out for if you wanted to build a title winning team again.
I'm having a look now just on the rankings for the Brazilian teams only, right? And you look through some of the names here, and they're the names that we remember. So Team 1, they don't have any of the names I'm talking about, but they're the third highest ranked team. So maybe we could look into there. But once you get down, we're talking about like Bolts, Phelps, Yell, Cello, and SHZ are all playing together on a team called Boom. Like, this is the retirement home. Like, that, there's like so many teams here that are the retirement home, because all those names, right, were probably at one point on the docket to join MIBR. Bolts was there, Phelps was there. The other 3 they're probably discussed. The same thing as you go a little bit further down, you got Neck is still here, you've got fucking Knack still playing, all these names that we've seen before. Like, unfortunately, the best talent you can't even get from Brazil because the guy's VAC banned of VSM, right? So they've I don't know, like, if we're talking about the project and making it work, their best bet is to just get fucking Cold Zero on the phone and say, hey, listen, mate, you want to come make the team with Gen.G? You guys can pick the other 3 players. We'll try and make a team work.
Good luck. Checkbook out for that one, Chad.
Yeah, I know, but
your
like,
checkbook better be significant at that point. Bloody hell!
They just freed up a lot of revenue, right, by just firing 3 people, or well, 2, and I think Fallen. But the thing is, as well,
Fallen's benched himself though, so they still have to pay him. I don't know what his contract looks like. They still have to pay him quite a significant wage. I'd imagine he's got a good contract. They're still gonna have to pay him.
He has a lot of power. He has a good contract. Let's say that.
How does K&G stay around there as well, though? Because he's coming out saying like he doesn't agree with it as well. So
I've only read his translated tweets on Twitter. Like, what Twitter translator, I can't really make sense of like exactly what his message is. But yeah, he seems pretty pissed off as well, right?
Yeah, there's like a lot of disdain going around within the team itself now. So going forward, like, it must, like, they invested a lot in Brazil, right? The Immortals, they invested a lot in Brazil. They obviously did, and it's a good decision. It's a massive fan base, but unfortunately for them, because they let the fucking the what's the saying about the patients running the fucking mental asylum? That's what they let. That's what that's the one, and that's what they let happen, and then it ran away from them, right? It's run away from them to the point where now, like, these players probably, you're seeing the way that they're tweeting and stuff. It seems to me like they're just going to invest the shitload of money they have and try it again with their own organization.
Not a bad shout.
Like, give it a crack.
They could just go to
Yeah, go to They already own so they could go there. That's fine. Then there's no conflict of interest anymore. That's all good. But the thing is, it's like they feel so disgruntled by this choice, but their results that we had up on screen before don't reflect a world-class team.
That's absolutely true. They can't be that pissed. Like, what were they expecting? We're along with like all the bad PR, the cheating controversy going on as well. Just the results in general. You just look at those going on.
I mean, the European campaign didn't work out.
Did they win? They've won what, a single best of 3 in the European campaign? Like,
I think like 3 out of 10 out against we have to say tier 3 teams in Europe. Like this is like opening it in flames and stuff like that.
I will say
this.
Against.
Yeah, okay.
I'll say this, like online CS, like it is harder than it looks, especially becoming in. Like there are a lot of sick teams that you would not necessarily expect to give you a run for your money. Within the top 60, especially an online player, I talked to a lot of other kind of managers and GMs about this. It's rough out there. The reason they're having to play so many tournaments is to get their points up and make sure they're actually within the top 20 firmly, so they don't receive fines, etc. And they're having to play a lot of tournaments, a lot of CS going on. So I do feel for them for that. Having to play teams that are anomalies you don't have as much information on, you're not focusing on, is actually beating them. I will say my heart bleeds from in that sense. Like, sure, they definitely should be beating them, but it's a bigger, wider issue, I would say, in terms of having to play teams you're not even kind of aware of, and they're coming in, and the level of play is much higher than it used to be. Like in terms of the resources now, as you go, trickles down, they're so much better. If you catch a MIBR in a bad streak and a bad day, a lot of things going on in their mind as well. There's every chance that a top 60 team can take them down because the levels just got that much higher. But not to give them any excuses, like they definitely should be winning those games. But I understand that in this current climate of CS and the way we're going, there are going to be some bumpy results, but definitely not as many as they received.
Just so people can be aware of these results. So since they came to Europe, which is where they kicked it off with ESL1 Cologne, they played 33 maps. They've won 12. They've lost 21. But that isn't even the worst of it. They've only won they only won 4 series, one of which was a best of 1 against Hellraisers, and it's not the Hellraisers you remember, it's the one with fucking like JR and stuff. They beat Singularity. One of those maps was an overtime game. They beat Gambit Youngsters. Both of those maps were overtimes, and they beat Apex, the Norwegian team. Those are the only teams that they've beaten.
After they beat Singularity, they also lost to them, I think. And then the rematch.
No, it was Copenhagen Flames. They lost to both of them.
That was Copenhagen.
They lost to them both times, actually.
Yeah, so like in terms of now, it's just Anyway, we've beaten this is another dead horse. We've fucking
gonna say the best team
we're talking about them. Yeah,
the best team they lost to was number 28. Like they lost to like 6 teams or 7, and the best team out of them was Gambit Youngsters, who were number 28. They obviously also played Mad Lions and Forza, who are a little bit higher. Yeah, Mad Lions for sure. Forza, I think, a little bit higher.
And they played G2 and FaZe in Cologne. So that was after that. It was all 9 to 5 and the Eden Cups and the Via GGs and the loot bets. So the tier
not the most fun circuit to play in, let me tell you. That's something I'm not looking forward to. I'm assuming I'm going to have to play in a few of those, get the old ranking up. So that's going to be a bumpy ride.
Yeah, Alex better be ready for some of that. So do we have anything, boys, we want to wrap out or round out here with MIBR? Because I feel this will be one of the last times we talk about them.
Yeah, I think what they will do is just go international and stay with MIBR. I think the brand is too powerful in Brazil for them to just go away from it completely. I think they would just throw away everything that they've done so far, and I don't think that's something that Immortals want to do. There's just way too big of a community in Brazil to just throw that away. So I think they would just go an international route and try to build it from there. But it's gonna be like that situation where like American brands are made in China and stuff like that. It's not gonna be really made in Brazil anymore, is it? So that's about what I see in their future.
Just think like fucking got Furia, Brazil. Like just support them. They seem pretty cool. It's easy. Just go over there. It's no dramas. Now
there are a few dramas there, Chad. To be fair,
that's true. There is the whole.
Let's not say no dramas. There is quite a massive drama.
Well, we'll wait for the ESIC investigation,
sure.
and then we'll start lighting some fires. Now let's move forward to my favorite player, and I didn't even mean that facetiously. It's just every time we were talking about like where a player could go or who could get replaced from somewhere if an in-game leader went, it felt like daps from Gen.G would probably be that name. And daps stepped down from Gen.G, for those of you playing at home. So that would mean to me that there was obviously some discussions about replacing him anyway. I read his tweet longer. He still wants to continue playing potentially, which for me, I thought this would have been his last hurrah at doing this same bullshit again. Yeah. But if he wants to get back on that horse and go one more time, there's a lot of teams that could definitely use him. I just would like, and if daps, if you watch this, if you listen to this, you know I like you. Just next time in the team, be a little bit more selfish. Just be a little bit more selfish. Just play for yourself a little bit more. You know, I know you're doing a good job. You're fixing all the teams and shit. But just for your own sake and your own mental fucking health, that's what I wish I did that a few times. Just play for yourself. All right.
What do you think about the idea of him coaching, perhaps?
He did that already.
Did he?
Like
oh,
you did, didn't
or
he?
Something.
Yeah,
for like a month.
Right. Yeah. That was a very short tenure, wasn't it? I think, like, in terms of the pressure put on players these days to perform, like, I feel like it's just that's not a position I'd want to be in, especially when your own form is not necessarily increasing. Like, it's kind of plateaued a little bit. Like, I don't think daps is a bad player, but he's certainly not a big fragger. And it seems to be something that comes back and bites him, like, towards the end of each team he plays for. It seems like the same old story. He comes back, he's ready to do it again. He'll bring a team to a certain level, and then they will either think about replacing him or he'll have to walk away. I feel like that just seems so stressful. I think he's a great in-game leader. I think he's fantastic. He brings a lot to a team. Very smart player, but I think he'd just be so much happier just in a different role, perhaps, like maybe full-time. I don't know. I didn't read the tweet longer, but going back into another fresh project, that just seems so stressful for me. Like, just going back on the horse straight away.
From the ground up as well, it's rough. Yeah. But this reminds me similarly of how stubborn players like Pronax and GobB were. Like, their individual form definitely tapered off, and they kept just wanting to play. And they're like, well, we like playing. And I get it. I used to like playing video games. I don't have any fucking time to do that anymore because I've chosen a role for me which suits better for than getting owned and destroyed and having all the people in Twitch chat calling me shit. I don't want that every day of my life. So, look, Prof, what do you make of this for Gen.G? Do you think Gen.G are kind of fucked now? They have someone. I don't think they have anybody lined up.
No, the way he described it, it sounds like he really did step down. It's not like, okay, daps, like, please go say you're stepping down because we're going to kick you otherwise. It seems like that. I don't know. But it's interesting. Like, one of the details from the tweet longer that I picked up was that he wanted to make changes like multiple times in the last 6 months, but the rest of the team didn't allow for it or something like that. And that's another thing where you think about, like, oh, if he's the in-game leader, he should be able to pull a plug on something like that, right? But obviously it doesn't work like that. Maybe it's the automatic power there in the team, because that was rumored to be an issue before in like Cloud9 Kiyoshima stuff and stuff like that. So maybe that was an issue for daps here, that he couldn't maybe change something, maybe not even in terms of players, maybe just in terms of roles that he wanted, and then he's like, okay, I'm stuck here doing the bitch roles and I can't even do what I want to do with the team, so it doesn't make sense. He's just gonna like devalue his stock even more. So I guess it makes sense. And then they get Dexter as the in-game leader and all good.
Yeah, I think a lot of people want Dexter at the moment.
We're just getting Dexter in every single team. Well, is that the solution now, Chad? Like, what is going on here?
I'm trying to help out some
teams. Is that what you guys talk about every week? Like, right, what team can Dexter join? Where can we place him in the landscape?
Kick daps and get Dexter. That's like all the time.
The worst part is we have two Dexter fanboys here. Prof is also a massive fan of Dexter, so it's like
I think he's a great player, but I'm not thinking he's the solution for every team out there. Like, I think he's fine.
Dexter to face.
Have you
Dexter to here?
Have you considered Dexter by any chance? You were talking about your star in game leader. So was Dexter ever in your calendar?
Was that to me? Sorry.
Yeah, that's you. That's you.
Sorry, to me. Yeah, I spoke to him. Definitely. I thought, like, I didn't know that much about him. I had a conversation with him because Chad's recommendation every single bloody day of my life.
I was so going to ask about that if it was Chad.
Like, and for me, like I said, I'm building a team for Flashpoint. So for me to even consider international players, like, they have to be able to get to Europe, and that's just not viable right now. So we could, like, before we even, like, I had a chat with him in the terms of, like, would you be interested? Like, he's very happy with his team now. He definitely wants to explore his options, I think. But aside from that, like it's not viable for me at least. And he's definitely good enough, and he's going to be one of the big names in the future, I think, of CSGO. I agree with you. He has got a lot to offer, but maybe we're picking him off a bit too much.
I want to own up to something as well, though, because we had Dexter on the show, and I asked him the question about being a chartered accountant and a chief financial officer, him being a father and shit. Yeah. And when I was telling Henry about picking him up, I was like, yeah, you know, look, he's a dad, so I don't know if he's going to want to go to fucking Europe to live.
It's fair shout, to be fair.
And it turns out, no, but this is the thing. He's not even a dad. It's all just bullshit. Everything in his Twitter bio is bullshit. He's like, and I was like,
what is everyone me telling me the last 6 weeks? Oh yeah, he'd be sick, bro, but he's got a kid.
But that's
he didn't have a kid.
Exactly. So
what is going on? Why is that just being told now?
He needs to remove that.
He definitely needs to remove that. That's insane. Everyone in the scene, if you're watching Dexter, thinks you've got a child and you can't play in Europe. That's mad. Take that out of your bio. Jokes aside, that's a really stupid thing to do. There's a lot of people that want to play with you, but you've kind of limited your own career with that one word, father, in your bio. No disrespect to fathers, not saying they can't play, but like it's certainly a limiting factor when you're moving continents.
Especially from Australia. Like,
yeah, that's what I mean.
Fuck.
Like if it's in Europe, sure, we can make that work, but god damn, don't put that as your bio.
Oh, all right. All right. Well, we've covered that
That's blown my mind. God, what is that?
Henry's suddenly rethinking all his choices as a new GM of Cloud9.
That's because that's the one thing Henry and I are trying to avoid at all times, being a fucking father. So if someone's going to be owning that shit, it's like, Jesus. All right.
Henry could have saved like 1.5 million on the buyout for that.
Yeah, exactly. That would have been a much cheaper solution. I'm joking.
Okay, so Striker, I want to throw this one with the whole Gen.G shit before we move on to the next piece of news. What do you, if I said to you that Som's going to move to Valorant, how would you feel about that?
What? Okay. What is this? Is this based in any facts, or is it just a
theoretical? I have gut feelings every now and again, and I have a gut feeling that some of the names in these, not fledgling, in these teams in North America who are almost cracking into the upper echelon with the big boys. I reckon some of these little kids are going to make some moves. Like Som's a youngster, right? Like if you were going to make a move to a game knowing it's going to be huge in North America, which Valorant is, like I won't beat around the bush that it is. Like that would be such an enticing thing. All your friends are over there playing and shit. Like 100 Thieves, massive brand. You get yourself over there. Like I reckon there's going to be some more moves going on. Do you have anything about that?
I mean, I'd just be surprised because it's a relatively new thing that they're in Gen.G. It's not even been a year, and I assume there's at least another year on his contract. So getting him out of there for basically like a Valorant team scene where that's still in its infancy, you know, and people are probably not spending big bucks on rosters yet.
They are.
Well, from what we've heard, at least salaries are not like ultra amazing, you know, compared to CS at least.
Not compared to CS, but there's definitely money being thrown around over there.
Can confirm.
Yeah, like proper money already. Which for those those organizers, you're wasting your money on the players that aren't going to be here in a couple years' time. You just relax.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if like more people who are even signed ended up making a move, especially like if they want to leave. Like it's going to be it's not going to be as massive of a buyout as it would be otherwise, you know. So it's just like it wouldn't surprise me, but yeah, that's about it.
I don't know if we want to theory craft a fifth for Gen.G because like I'm alluding to, I feel like there might be a couple changes. So maybe we'll just leave Gen.G where they are, unless we want to talk more about them. Anyone want to?
Nah.
I mean, there was a chance that Nitro. Down there,
you happy? All right, cool.
Did you just say you could say Nitro?
Well, obviously, if he hadn't left to
okay. Yeah, I was going to say that'd be a big move now to go from 100 feet.
Well, yeah, obviously that's not going to happen now. But you know, if this was an option, maybe a couple of months ago, maybe that would have been a way to go.
And it would have kept them in a really good level, right? Because you think about that team, like you have some really good fraggers over there. I think Bentet and Som are safe pairs of hands. Automatic is a bit hit miss on the AWP, but he could go back to rifling. Nitro could in-game lead and AWP still. It'd be definitely a firepower upgrade. Anyway, we won't get too far into it because we do need to talk about, I know one of Henry's favorite players of all time is, and hopefully one day going to feature in some of the best commentary we've ever heard, is Guardian. Is Guardian. Now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Guardian has been, how long has it been now since he's just been not playing?
Close to
9 months.
Close to like a year, yeah.
Okay, so 9 months, and he has announced that he is ready to return. Striker.
Yep.
As someone from a similar part of the world as Guardian, we'll start with you.
Okay.
How do we feel about this? Do we think that he can return to a tier 1 level of player? Or is he going to find himself in the Oscar washing machine of the fucking tier 2s, tier 3s?
Look, I can tell you that he's definitely thinking that he still has it in him. I can say that. I've talked to him before, and he's certainly thinking he's not done at the tier 1 level. So
he's 29, right?
He's close to 30 for sure. I don't know exactly, something like that. Yeah, probably.
So, do you think he can return?
29. I think he can return. I don't think it's going to be into a tier 1 team. I don't think a tier 1 team will be interested at this point. I don't believe there's a team that would get him at this point as an offer. And obviously, as anything else, it's just he's not going to be as good anyway. So I just don't see a place in him in the first place. And secondly, I just don't think he does have it in him. I honestly don't.
I think it's past his prime.
Yeah.
Henry, Cloud9.
The amount of tweets I've got about picking up Guardian is absolutely mad. I echo Striker's sentiments there. If you look back over his career, definitely one of the most iconic and fantastic AWPers that's ever played Counter-Strike full stop. He was an adversary of mine in Source, and trust me, he was better in Source than he was CSGO. He was absolutely nuts. He was one of the absolute best, and it's a shame that he couldn't hold on to that. After his injury, I think it was did he have a proper wrist injury before or after phase? That's when it felt like it really started to go wrong. The phase era for him, I just don't think that was a good move. It felt like it was too much pressure, too much responsibility on the AWPer, a name like Guardian looking to deliver, and you could see he just wasn't maintaining that level. And as Striker just said, I love Guardian. I think he's fantastic what he's done for CS, but I do think he's past it. I don't think he'll be going to a tier 1 team. Happy to be proven wrong if he does come back. All the power to him, amazing. But I think it's too much for liability with the age. For me, someone who signs 3-year deals, I wouldn't want to sign someone that old on a 3-year deal right now. Maybe he comes in on a 6-month arrangement to prove himself with a team.
What about a 6-man?
spot. Or a 6-man potentially, Chad. Who could be thinking of that? But someone who's been prone to injuries, significant ones in the past, and then dropping off. I feel like the money he would expect to come.
It was a football injury, though. By the way, it wasn't just a out of nowhere. It was actually a physical thing.
Presumably, it's going to have ramifications going on. I don't know. The wrist injuries are not a good one to have on your CV going into a CS team. Yeah, you're right. There was a football injury. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. He hasn't been in the conversation for my team. I'll say that much. So definitely wish him all the best. I hope it does work out and he finds a suitable home. I don't think it'll be a tier 1 team, but hopefully a team where he can prove himself and maybe show us that he has still got something left in the tank. I haven't watched him play in a long time. Who knows? From the last time I saw him out there, the last time he was out there, it wasn't great. Maybe he's turned things around. Maybe he's kind of found a new mindset. Why grinding online? And I haven't watched his stream yet. Has anyone watch that and see what level he's
had some highlights. He's looking good. Yeah. It's just it's like the team of where he can find himself. Who knows? That's the problem.
I have no idea. I have no idea. I hope it does work out for him. Honestly, I really like him as a person. I do think he's a good player. I just don't think he's tier 1 caliber right now. Whether he's ready for it, maybe he's got something left in the tank. Who knows?
Prof, I've got an idea for you. I'm going to give you this idea. You tell me what you think, and then you give me a better one. So we get Hal Zerk out of the jail that he's in over there with Dignitas, and we put Guardian in there. And then what we do is we talk about that, that WWE version we're talking about, where we get all the old boys back together, we get the old Navi back, we get the old Virtus Pro back, and we run them as a bit of a show match. What do you reckon? That's how we can get Guardian back in?
I think that's the issue with him is he can't get an opportunity on a top team. No one is going to take that risk, as you all said. Even if, let's say, he is the most skilled AWPer in the world right now. No one can see that because he's not playing pro matches, and no top team is going to offer him the op spot on a team because it's just too valuable to use it on such a risk, right? It has to be some situation, as Sponge, you said, maybe someone goes missing. Maybe Mantu needs to take a break. Mantu had a hand injury as well. Let's say
he filled in for Dignitas, right? He came in.
Yeah.
So that's I think that's where he kind of finds a place for himself, just being a mercenary. Just a streamer comes in when the teams need him. I would say that's a lot less stressful. Farm your community, do your stream, enjoy yourself, just put it out there that you're available. So to be dropped in for tournaments like that where teams have an issue, I think that's a super viable move for him in terms of just staying a member of the community, still having his own kind of source of income, and then having the option to prove himself out there. I think that's the most viable move because the reasons I just don't think he'll get the offer he expects or he's looking for. I don't think he'll be satisfied with what's available to him right now. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe he's already got a deal in the works. But judging by your interview on HLTV, it seemed like it was him trying to suggest that he's ready rather than everyone else agreeing with him.
Yeah, I think it's from Dexerto, I think, originally. Like, it was a Guardian column, just to be clear, that it wasn't our interview. But, okay.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, give him credit. We take all the credit around here at HLTV.
Yeah, it was an interview I read somewhere, wherever it was.
Well, it was. We did post like about it on HLTV, but it was
on the other hand, like a classic thing that you casters do is like, I read on Twitter that some guy said something. It was literally an HLTV interview, and that pissed me off so many times.
Look,
like,
man.
Yeah, Guardian said on Twitter that he's coming back.
Hey man, I just gave you a shout out you didn't deserve, so I can't win either way, can I?
Yeah, exactly.
Swings and roundabouts.
Yeah.
I mean, it is, to be fair, it is a pretty good it is a pretty good chance that we did post it because we post a lot of stuff. But you know.
I just knew it was an article. You guys normally do all that. It was Dexerto, you're right. But yeah, it felt like it was more from his words rather than a publication building up saying he's ready to come back. It was more like he sat down and wrote an essay and put it out there, which is very difficult to really take anything away from.
This is another one of these scenarios where, like, when there is the option of Valorant going and you're a seasoned FPS player with name brand value, right? Like, who is the biggest Counter-Strike player who's moved to Valorant that you guys can think of?
Nitro.
Exactly. So, like, Guardian,
100%.
Imagine Guardian goes to Valorant playing for whatever the fuck team. Like, this is the way. This is the way that like organizations can build their stock in Valorant by using Counter-Strike's legacy, right? Use all the shit that he did, and like, I don't even know if he wants to play that, right? Like, I'm just saying that if you're in a position right now as a pro and you're getting into your twilight years and you're not going to get the big offers anymore, like, you have to be an in-game leader at the moment to be guaranteed a good team at that age. I think there's not too many players who are playing at the RPK is the only one, and Forrest as well, but Forrest is playing with the other guys. So for him, unfortunately, that's just all it's going to be. But
it's also, as far as I know, he's pretty talented with, you know, picking up new games, just because when he was at his prime in Source, or maybe not his prime, but like towards the end of Source, he was even playing 1.6 at the same time in the local scene and was destroying everybody here, by the way. It's just like he just came in and just destroyed the team that dominated for the previous 3 years while he was playing Source as well. So it's like, seems like he's pretty talented at, you know, picking up another FPS game and being good at it.
Yeah, that's fair. Like, I remember you're absolutely dead on. He was actually a 1.6 player. Like, kind of like chopping and changing between Source and 1.6 like for every month. Like, he was the best at one point. He was the best AWPer within Source, like by far. And he wasn't even his main game. It was kind of nuts. The peak of his talent, like that is something ungodly. When he peaks and he finds his zone, like he's crazy. He's nuts. But I just haven't seen it for a while. I don't hate the Valorant idea, Chad. If you look at the players that have moved over there and all the big names within Valorant, no disrespect to them, it is the kind of tier 2, tier 3 players that never made it in CS, and there's a reason they didn't make it. They're all shining very brightly in the beginning stages of Valorant. And just look at the very early stages of CSGO, you're going to see very similar trends there as well. These players that are at the top right now will not be the top of that game in even a year's time. So you need to be very careful, but maybe a good opportunity to get some hype going and move over. I don't know.
I think, like, if you're a Counter-Strike player who's struggling now, it's a great move for now. But if you're like I'm going to use FNS as an example. I assume he's in-game leading the team. I think it's TSM or whatever it is in Valorant at the moment. If I'm FNS and I'm playing with all the old boys, as soon as like the game starts to get a bit more established and some up and coming kids come through and they have talent, no offense to my old boys who I played Counter-Strike with, but for my own sake of preserving and being good in that game in the future, I'm getting rid of the old boys. Like, I'm like, sorry guys, you know, we came this far, we did 6 months, we did a year, we did 18 months or whatever. Now I'm getting rid of you and we're going to actually have a serviceable team. Because right now, the reason that those players are good is because they have all the history of Counter-Strike, knowing teamwork, trading, the fundamentals. They already have all that built. But as soon as all the other kids learn that, they're sharper, they're faster, they're quicker to the uptake. They don't think about the game like Counter-Strike. They think about the game like Valorant. Like, but anyway, this is not a Valorant. This is not a Valorant podcast. Let's keep going. We're already.
One thing I will say, Chad, on that point, if you kind of, the comparison you just made is a very astute one. I feel like we've said that before about raw CSGO players, right? The players that have just been brought up in CSGO, haven't got bad traits or habits from 1.6 or Source. There's a reason that the old boys are kind of being phased out because they can't keep up with the core CSGO players, right? That will happen in Valorant as well. They don't have the name value right now to be in those top teams, but once they kind of hone their craft a little bit more, they will be replacing those older names. Once they get the experience up there, that's exactly what's going to happen. Like, I know no one wants to hear that, but that's what's going to happen. And that's the way it always goes. And early games that haven't been established yet are going to feel that pressure. And you're right, this is not a fucking Valorant podcast, so let's move on, shall we?
Let's talk about ENCE. So ENCE, they're the most recent victim, or one of the most recent victims of the coach bug. So Twista came out and said that he used the bug. Was it back in 2017? Striker Prof? Yep. Okay. Yep. So with that's some time ago. And obviously none of us, we've spoken about the bug a lot, especially with last week's episode. We had Mihao on. And none of us obviously want this to be backdated to the start of the game or the start of when coaching happened or all of those bits and pieces. But there it is, bits and pieces. Only took an hour and 20 minutes to get that one in. But it's happened, and the ENCE have suspended him. How long have they suspended him for, Striker?
And just until it's resolved, I think.
Okay, so ESIC, the period closed last night at 11 p.m., if I remember rightly. And Prof, you made a very astute tweet saying that don't expect these things to happen immediately. How long do you think it's going to be before we see coming out from ESIC? Do you think it's going to probably be like a week, 2 weeks? What do you reckon?
I hope they'll do something about the confessions like within this week. It would make sense, I feel like, even though their plan is to announce like once a month. So I guess at the end of this month would be when they would bring out their own findings. But this is a different thing because this is people coming forward and admitting. So at the same time, if someone comes out and admits, but maybe he doesn't admit to everything, so maybe it's not smart to just come out and say, okay, this guy admitted to one usage, and then we find like 5 more next week. So I don't know how they're gonna be doing that. I'm not smart, and I don't know like a perfect solution for this.
But I think they also said that they would take like 8 months or something to do the completing investigation. Yeah. So I think they'll just come out with whatever information they have at this point and just keep going from there. And like you say, just do regular updates.
Forgive my ignorance. I know you guys have talked about this to death right now. So we're waiting on the verdict from these guys to kind of tell us everyone that's been involved in this. So not all the names we've released so far. There's more to come, or they're just
lots
investigating.
More to come.
Okay, that's what I wasn't sure. I saw you guys posted a list like a couple of days ago. You've been updating it. I've gone through that, but I'm not sure definitively that everyone that's been caught, everyone's confessed.
That's just still been implicated.
Okay, so then we've got confessions that are yet to be revealed at this point. Yeah. Okay, that's
as far as we know, a lot of people.
That's alarming, isn't it? That's a real humdinger.
DK's article says like 15 confessions or something like that. So
that's
what we're expecting.
That's gonna hurt. That's gonna wound.
And that's just confessions. So I don't know. Maybe I'm not smart enough to understand that
right now they've done. We've done like kind of public executions one by one for these coaches. I guess that had to stop at one point, right? Because that was getting out of control. We couldn't just have every day, right? The new guy that's going down to the chopping
that was
block.
Really painful.
It was getting like, it was actually giving me anxiety every day.
At 12.
Yeah, like I've never seen anything like it. Like it had to be done, of course. I'm not blaming anyone for the way it went down. Like we've never been here before. But at the same time, it was getting out of control. The amount of names, and every day someone is having to face the public like that. So I feel like, yeah, it definitely has to be addressed. We need to work out the correct way to do it because we're going to kill our own game. Every day we've got this announcement coming out that we've got another dude called it the same thing. Either way, it's not going to be good news whatsoever. I'd be very interested to see how they approach this one. I didn't know there was still potentially like 15 more to come. That I just
hope. My only hope is that people kind of reserve their judgment on some of these cases, just because obviously, like if somebody used it once for like a half a map or something after encountering it for the first time, like tell me yourself, like if this did happen to you, like would you immediately just leave that position and make sure you don't see anything? I feel like some people should just be introspective and try to understand, be empathetic, and try to understand what kind of situation they find themselves in.
What do you guys think about the Gary situation? Because I assume you watched his video and he broke it down. I thought that was pretty convincing in terms of like he actually had his POV recorded. They're recording for like the comms or whatever. You could quite clearly see what he was saying was true, at least from my eye. I'm not sure how technical the demos and the lagging works and stuff like that. It did look like to me he was alt tapped, and I don't think he would ever use anything like that. It seems like what he was saying was true, but at the end of the day, he was still using it. There's no way of guaranteeing or clarifying what he's saying. In my opinion, I think he's in the clear, but I couldn't pin my reputation on the line. What did you guys make of that video, for example?
Well, we had Mihao on last time when we specifically talked about this and like how he views the situation, and basically his reservation was that essentially, first of all, Gary had already encountered the bug before and got out of it.
Sure.
When he saw it, but like the day before the video happened, or like the case from the video happened, from the bad video where he was in that position for the entire game, obviously. Yep. So like that's one problem. Like he could have gotten out of it because he had already known how it works and what it does and how to get out of it clearly. He'd reconnected in the game before. So that's the problem one. And second problem was that the lagging that he encountered during the game, as he said, he alt-tabbed. Like Michal said that he could have had the game in windowed mode and still seen the game while he was alt-tabbed.
Yeah, I did that last night actually. I was playing around with borderless and kind of you can still have the thing up and it lags.
Yeah.
If you have a secondary monitor, you click on the secondary monitor, it doesn't minimize. Yep. It's still there. So yeah, that's a good point. There's sure it was lagging. Like I said, to me that looks legit, but you're dead on. Like he could have just clicked on the second monitor or just gone out and they still could have seen it. I guess it's just saying he did that. There is a chance, and we can never know for sure. You know, so
yeah, exactly.
That is an issue.
But I think it's just like it's so difficult to judge these people and just like completely throw them, like left them to drown themselves, because it's just like if I found myself in that situation like the first time, I don't know if I would leave that position in like immediately. I don't know if I would be that honorable in that position. You know, you just, once you find yourself in that situation, I feel like it's difficult. If you actively seek it out, that's very different, obviously. Like that means you actively wanted to cheat, wanted to get an advantage. But if you find yourself in that position and stay there, I think there's a different place for those people.
Well, the problem we have is the bans have already been put in place. So Dead's was 1 round. Well, technically it was over 2 games now, and maybe they find more. But Dead's was 1 round, and it was 6 months. And then Hunden's was, what was it, 10 rounds?
10 rounds, I think.
In one map, and that was 12 months. And then we know that one is probably going to get put up a little bit more because apparently there's other cases of him using it, apparently.
Oh, really?
Well, this is the thing. We don't know. Like,
that breaks my heart. That does.
The E6 doing all their investigate. Yeah, and it was such a cool story too.
Yeah.
And then we obviously have the guy from Hard Legion, Zona. His is like 2 years.
I mean, that's
he can go fuck himself. Let's be honest.
What was he thinking?
That's all I have to say about that.
Like the people who would like actively used it for like several matches, those might as well just leave the scene. I don't care about them. But it's just like those one-time situations, a few rounds at a time. I feel like that's a very different place that we're in.
All right, well, let's drop the coaching thing for now and move forward, because we have some more interesting news to be covering off here. We're going to be jumping into talking about the stuff that was addressed by Valve recently. Now, they did address the coaching bug in a way, right? They've mentioned that the RMR points for teams implicated in RMR events will be reset to 0. So MIBR, who wouldn't have any points anyway because now they have no players, had their
I forgot about that.
Yeah, which is probably
just add it to the pile. Yeah, we're taking the points away.
I think this might be why. By the way, this might be why MIBR pulled the plug now. Just
well, they weren't going to qualify anyway, were they? Like,
well, I mean, but MIBR have already known for a while. I think that the major wasn't going to happen. So I think like there was a reasonable chance, or a reasonable thing to assume that we'd have more RMR events.
Yeah.
So I think this is where they pulled the plug, just because, okay, we just don't have any more points, so fuck it.
Yep.
So with this as well, what else were they saying, Prof, as far as the coaching bug went?
I think what is important is what we kind of speculated on the last show. It's like Valve likes to take time and they want to see the scope of everything before they make a judgment, because as you saw, like now with the Hunden case, like we gave him one punishment and now we have to kind of rule everything based on that punishment. That's kind of some like meter that we use for other people's punishments. So they don't want to go out and maybe say, okay, this is going to be the punishment. Then they realize, okay, these guys fucked up much more, or these guys fucked up less, and maybe we overdid it. So they're waiting for kind of the investigation to kind of unravel before they are going to give their final punishment. They said something like, we'll be following the developments about the stuff. So for now, what they did makes sense. It's kind of in line with what Striker said, what they did with Kaylee and what other team, some other team as well. That was banned before the DreamHack Winter Major. They just took away the spot from the whole team, even though it's just like one player and maybe the rest didn't know. It's just like, but tough luck, man. Someone cheated. That's it. So that's their policy, and they are keeping to it. Even if you don't agree, at least they're like consistent with it, right?
Sure.
And that's more or less it. We'll see. We don't know if it's going to be anything more or less than this. And unfortunately, they did put in one line. It was like, we might think about limiting coaching opportunities further, because there's always what is it like? Not a desire, but some other word.
I think that just shows.
Moses back on the phone to Anders. Anders, take me back, please.
1 week on the job, it's all falling apart for him. I really hope that doesn't happen. I don't think everyone should be punished. Like, just fix the bug and we'll go from there, right? Just let's do that first.
That just
then make a decision.
Yeah,
has it been fixed now? Is it it's like
apparently not
categorically fixed? Because I saw that comment, like they were being very wishy-washy about, oh, we need to make sure it's all like it's part of the code. Not really much we can do about it. I think they've plugged some holes. It didn't seem like definitively it was resolved.
What was Mihao saying, Striker?
Mihao said that there was still some other instance, some other way that this like a different way the bug could happen, where you just end up in a third what is it called? Third person. There you go. Third person position. Wait, so you just land on a player, but you can turn his view in third person, so you could see behind corners and stuff like that. So which is obviously not amazing as well. And I think that whole statement about them like considering pulling the plug on coaches or just like making some adjustments to the role just says that they probably don't know how to fix it just yet, or they haven't fixed every single case. Because otherwise, if they fixed it and were confident that nothing was going to happen anymore, why would they limit the coaches? Obviously, like at that point, nobody can.
I mean, it's just like it's a programming thing. Bugs will always happen, so they know it's something like that could happen somewhere down the line, and if they can't stop people from abusing it when it happens, then it's just like, okay, then we have to limit the position itself. I'm not saying that's a good logic. I think it's kind of shit logic. I mean, just punish the guys that did abuse it. I think it's pretty obvious that you shouldn't be using stuff like this.
Yeah.
And that's it.
I mean, at this point, especially like when it's so obvious how serious the ramifications would be if you used it from this point on.
Especially now.
Yeah, exactly. I think at this point we can be pretty sure that people will be fucking careful if they ever encounter something like this again, and they will not use it just because it's pretty clear that it's fairly easy to find out. Even though it takes some time, but it's just a relatively easy process. It just takes time.
All right. Well, we can button that one up because we'll keep talking about coaching shit forever.
Yeah.
We'll get to the next important part here. And I made a tweet earlier in the year, got me in a little bit of trouble, but saying that the major wasn't going to happen in Brazil, which for most of you probably should have been able to work that out because there's this whole fucking COVID situation going on, and apparently Brazil don't really handle it that well, according to the statistics. Now, it's been official that the major is not happening, but I think the wording of this is all very important, right? Because Valve didn't announce when they were going to do the next major. They just said they're going to do a major at some point when it's safe, right? That's basically the gist of it. Am I between the lines
here?
Here?
Essentially, what they're planning at this point is just keep going with RMR events, and once it's possible to do RMR events on LAN, which obviously means that the global situation has improved. Better, we're able to do some LANs, obviously regionally, but it's the first step towards considering hosting a major from that point on. So basically, that's the next step we're looking towards. Whenever regional the RMR events start happening on LAN, I think that's where we can see perhaps major in the near future.
Now, I just want to frame this for people to consider from a Valve perspective. Who are like, oh, but I'm sure they could have done it. League of Legends are doing it. We had this discussion last time. We had this fucking chat last time. So I don't need to dig too much into it. But the level
people
of resources...
People can just watch the last
watch the last
episode.
one. But the thing is, I think what's important to note here about Valve not saying, oh, well, we'll do it in May next year, or we'll do it in fucking November next year, or whenever the windows are, I've forgotten. But I think it's important with them not saying that is because if they said, oh, we'll do it in May next year, then everyone's going to be excited. And then what happens if we get a second wave of corona over this flu period right now, and everyone's sick and the world fucking shuts down again and everything goes back to the bullshit way it was, right? They're just going to continue to have to kick that can down the road. And that means that we will just have to ride this fucking wave of excited. We don't know what's going to happen, right? We don't know when there's going to be a vaccine. We don't know if this thing is going to hang around forever. Well, probably is going to hang around forever, but we don't know how it's going to look on a global scale. So Valve right now are covering themselves. They're covering any TOs that they say are going to be running the majors. And as long as they run these RMR events, which you should just look as a way for them to evaluate where the teams are at. Just look at it like that, right? Don't go into an RMR event and go, oh, I can't wait to see who wins. Just look at it as they run a long format. They want to see all the teams play each other. They want to see who comes out on top. It doesn't matter who really, wins. It just matters who the good teams are to get enough points. And we run these evaluations until we can have a major. This is the only way that we're going to be able to guarantee that when we do get back to a major, we have teams who are, somewhat serviceable to play, right? That's the only way. And the fact that, like you said, Striker, if they're waiting until we can get back to land, well, that's great. You know, you don't want to be forcing players and teams and organizations to be going, oh shit, we can't miss the fucking major. I don't think it's safe to travel right now because of COVID, right? That could be some of these people's thoughts. And they're getting forced into having to go there because Valve want to put on the major. Like, that doesn't seem very fair to anybody. So it's playing it safe. It's not hugely exciting because we're playing it safe, right? Like, but that's what we have to do. We can't fuck around with people's lives and shit. So this is obviously going to be an ongoing thing. Henry, do you think this is going to
I just want to add something about the RMRs, because I feel like a lot of people are confused about the standings being like, are they going to be reset or not? I think I don't know why anyone would think they are going to be reset. It's just going to continue moving the way it is now, with every next event having more and more points, in that way kind of valuing it more as of like more recency, and that's it. Like, that's the whole idea behind it. So you give some points for the people that won the first RMR, which could be like a year and a half from the major, but it still has some value, right? And you just build on that, and with the new ones having more points, teams that did like poorly initially can still make up. And that's the whole idea behind the RMRs, just like continue running them as it is, and hopefully TOs make more, put in more effort to make the events good as events, not just as major qualifiers, if that makes sense. Because I felt like all of these RMRs were just like, this is a qualifier for the major, and that's it. So try to like make it a good like self-standing event on its own, right?
Yeah, it felt like we were kind of just putting something out there for the sake of it. Once we couldn't do the major, we thought, this won't last for long. We'll put these events in the kind of placeholder position. But Chad's dead on. Like, we can't have a major online, right? That's just not feasible. But we can't keep doing these RMR events forever either. Like, they're not that exciting to watch right now. We know there's points at stake and money there, but at the same time, it's just like, there's no real culmination of like, this is the great, this is where it's all leading towards. We don't even know where it's heading at this point, and it is kind of hindering Counter-Strike right now. I'll say that much, especially for someone making a team like I am. Like, in terms of enabling any sort of transfers right now is nigh on impossible. Like, we didn't even have an established real season or transfer window beforehand. Like, how are we ever supposed to like resurrect teams or sort things out if we can't transfer players, because we lose 20% of their RMR points if they leave the squad, right? That kind of ruins a lot of orgs, especially some of the lower tier ones that have done very well in the RMR sort of events. If they were to lose any of their players, that would be a significant hit, and it kind of keeps everyone, unhappy or not, in position where they can't really move or have any wiggle room or explore their options, which that could go on indefinitely. We can't just have another year. We have to say, right, no one can move teams, or the most they can consider is maybe one player. It just seems like it's not a great solution for already a very complicated situation in terms of transfers. I don't think that's really been handled well. And for me, that's the most important thing. Like, I'm really struggling to sign a lot of players that want to join only because of RMR points. It's the main thing that's holding me back right now.
Well, I want to take this to you, Striker, because I know that you were having a discussion today with some people about the RMR and trying to explain the logic of it to them. But with this point that Henry's bringing up about the rosters and being hit, do you think they'll have to adjust those percentages going forward in some way?
Look, I do 100% agree that this is a problem, and from the organization's perspective, or from teams' perspectives, just because there's no certainty as to when the major will happen, how long they will have to play RMR events. It could be after the next one. We don't know. It could be just after the fourth one. That's probably going to happen at the start of the next year.
Yeah.
But they just don't know. It could be like 2 more after that. So they just don't, in case it happens early, they just don't want to make any changes now, just because it could cost them the spot at the major that could be like this time next year, or like in the middle of next year. So I 100% agree and understand the point of view. What was the original question that you asked me?
Just if you think that Valve will have to look at adjusting it a little bit, because if we like, this was meant to be the last RMR event, right? So if you just say everybody, we play by the same rules right now, but as we move forward into next year, the next RMR event can't be until player break ends on the 17th.
Well, just
January,
like January something. Yeah.
So let's say it was early January or February or something like that. That would have to be the next one, and They have to make it like, I don't know. It gets real squirrely because you're right. We don't know where it's going to land. I do think
that the system is good though, as it is, without taking into considerations the punishment exactly. I think the system was made with the idea in mind that we could keep going on for longer than just these 3 events. I think Valve had it pretty well planned, just because it's just obvious how much they thought about it, just because obviously like individual placings in one event don't really matter too much. Like if you're first or third or first or even 8th in the first tournament, like it's down the line, it's not going to matter too much about the difference. It's just that you're consistent at the next events that follow. Like one win doesn't really matter as long as, you know, if you don't do well at more events down the line. It just, you need to be consistently placing highly to be able to make it to the top 11 that's in Europe and whatever it is in the other regions, right? So I think the system as it is good. It's just the transfer rules that are pretty punishing, and it just keeps going down further down the line, because you lose 20% of everything that you've already gained, right?
Yeah.
So that's the biggest problem to me. If we only had teams lose 20% for every tournament that they missed the player that they have in the current roster, that makes sense to me. The problem with that is that it could be abused. Like, you know, teams could just make changes retrospectively, you know, going back to players that they used before just to gain points at the end of the whole cycle, where they just
the players hold on the points, right? They when you transfer a player to another organization, their points come with them. Is that correct?
No.
So you just lose them. That's it.
They're just gone.
They're just gone. Yeah. That seems to doesn't make any sense. It means we can't actually make any moves. We can't really have any sort of contribution moving forward. It means that everyone's stuck where they are.
I think another look at it is, though, now that we have to look as who knows how far down the road this is, that does open the window for teams to make some roster changes. It just doesn't open them to make a lot of roster changes, right? No. So say for your boys, for example, Henry, you build a team, you will now have an opportunity. Let's say that you poach like 1 or 2 players from already established squads. They lose 20%. Your team comes in and wins the initial event, right? Well, you're not going to catch up to like Astralis, for example, but you might put yourself in the running straight away for just being outside. And then you go into the next one, maybe you place top 8, you've already caught up. And I think that because it could go indefinitely, or let's say that we know that there's guaranteed 1 more RMR. Let's say that there is at least, let's say in total, including the next one, there's 3 more. So we say middle of next year or whatever, we're starting to look at getting back to the majors. If that's the case, there are teams who are going to make roster changes. They're not going to have a choice. Like old boy fucking, I don't know, it doesn't matter the player's name. Yeah, like they're going to, let's say they get fed up, like fucking Flusher and JW have a falling out. They don't want to play with each other anymore. Like shit is going to happen. And I think what is, like, people are going to be less precious about those points now. They're still going to protect them the best way that they can, but they're going to have to make changes, because you like you're saying, you physically have to. Like Counter-Strike teams cannot stay in one state for the whole time. We're seeing teams struggling now as it is, right? And they're going to have to make roster changes. So, maybe it's just about the sacrifice, because if, let's say, in the top 10 teams in the EU RMR, let's say 4 of them make changes, well, then that's 4 teams out of those 10 affected. So it's going to hit a lot of teams, right? It is going to hit a lot of teams. And it's not, I'm trying to paint that in a good way, right? Because if everybody's getting hit by the same problems, then we're all just copping it on the chin. And at the end of the day, if we're going to be honest with ourselves here, ladies and gentlemen, the next major that we have will not have all the best teams purely because of all the bullshit we're going through, right? It just seems unlikely that would happen. It just seems super unlikely that it would work out in the wash that way. And this is just the way it's going to have to be for a short period of time until we get back on that horse and get going again.
I mean, one thing we have to also consider for all of these teams, like, it's going to be the thing, like, someone needs to start making changes and then everyone else is going to be more comfortable making them. But on the other hand, is like, do you want to qualify for the major with a roster that you don't think is good enough to like win it, especially if you're one of the top 8 teams? All of those teams are going in expecting to win. So I think they're going to be comfortable enough to sacrifice points to get the roster they want. Even if they lose points, even if I have to go through the qualifier, they're going to do it. So I don't know, it is weird, but we'll see how it goes. And I think Valve probably didn't want this to go on as long as it did, so they could maybe tweak and change for 2021 already, but we can't do that now because it doesn't make sense to lower the percentages that you lose when people already lost points using this rule. So it would be unfair to people that already changed lineups, right?
They'd have to announce it before the start of this one to reflect the next one.
Yeah.
Right? That would be a long enough lead time. It'd have to be, it couldn't just be, Okay, well, let's keep moving forward here, because we do have another piece of news that came out with the ESL announced. Let me see here. They call it, what do they call it? What do they name this? The Global Challenge?
Which is, by the way, that's so fucking confusing. for everybody involved, because MDL has its own global challenge, and suddenly, like, I had to be so careful with that title, by the way, because I was in charge of that news when it came out. I had to be so careful not to use just global challenge. Like, I had to be a little bit more like specific, just to make sure people don't just think, okay, well, so what? A fucking global 50,000 global challenge is going to happen at the end of the year. Who cares, right? So I don't understand what ESL were thinking in naming this.
Well, look, let me tell you. Sometimes it doesn't get that far with the thought process there, Striker.
I guess so.
They're probably completely different arms of the company. They don't even fucking come across each other here. But just with the wording that you guys have quoted in your article here, under the condition that the global situation does not dramatically deteriorate, the IEM Global Challenge will bring top-tier CSGO scene back to LAN setting for the first time since March. So this is announced for December 15th to 20th. And it's the best 8 teams from North America and Europe. So we're keeping the rest of the world's shitters out of it, which is good for the first LAN event back. And it'll be $500,000. So ESL obviously feel confident enough that they can run a LAN event, and that's including bringing people over from North America. There might be quarantine windows. There might be all that kind of stuff that we do have to think about. But the fact that they're feeling confident enough to bring LAN back in some regard, who knows? It might be like a quarantined LAN, guys. But they're feeling confident that they can bring LAN back. What's your initial thought on this, Henry? You think it's a bit audacious? You think they can pull it off?
What are the dates for it?
15th to 20th of December, just before Chrissy.
I don't think it's worth it. Like, people aren't going to want to travel that time either very well. What if they get stranded wherever the LAN's going to be? Like that time of year, I wouldn't want to risk. Even though I spend Christmas alone every single year, but I don't know. That's a bit of an odd time to kind of go travel abroad, especially coming from international, a transatlantic flight, like to be traveling like that. I don't know what the landscape of the world will look like in a couple of months, but yeah, definitely an audacious move. If they're planning a LAN, I'm not sure whether that will go forward. There's potentially other LANs coming up before that, right? So like, there's certainly plans, but I don't think any of them will come to fruition, in my opinion.
To be fair, I'm just going to comment on like people being a little bit reluctant to travel. I think at that time, even now, it's like things don't change from day to day anymore in the world. Like, they are relatively stable in terms of what you need to do if you want to travel, and I think they were going to stay that way. Even if we get another wave, it was just going to be like one big change that's probably like all the countries are going to come in with. And it's not going to be like at the start of the year where we had no idea what was going to be next week or what was going to be in the next 3 days. So I think at the point where we know that it can happen, I think everybody will be able to just travel back and forth. I don't think it should be a problem at that point. It's just getting there and actually getting to a point where it can happen is the question, I think.
So Prof, with 8 teams, $500,000. What Henry was saying, obviously people might be reluctant, but have you been in any conversations with, let's say, North American teams? Do they seem like they want to get over to the US? Like, do you have any insight from that side of things?
Not really. Like, from the first reactions, I saw some reactions on Twitter. Saw some reactions on Twitter from people being like, why are we even announcing things that aren't going to be happening?
Okay.
But so I think there's enough reluctance from players, teams, coaches to make it difficult to happen. Also, like, I didn't think about it before, but from what Henry said about Christmas, it's like you come back home, traveling, Christmas dinner with all of your family, grandpa.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, imagine the implication there.
Not sure if that's ideal, right?
No, it's really not.
Yeah. That's it. That's all I have to say on this topic.
Well, we sucked all the excitement about the LAN out of the room, didn't we? Like, I'm fucking hyped for it.
I still think it's going to happen. So.
Oh, okay. We got one fan over there.
I think it's going to happen as well.
All right. So two plays two. We have to bring in a decider. Can you produce a talk? Make the deciding vote?
We don't let Lucas have an opinion. He's
trying to. I had a bet with Ryan about there being a LAN. That was like a few months ago in this year, but I think it was. My goal was like 16 teams, so this doesn't even do anything for me. So
you still lose.
Like, I still lose, man.
Okay, well, this is slated to happen, ladies and gentlemen. So whether or not it does, it'll be the first LAN back since March. So I guess we don't need to dig too much further into this here.
We don't know about Flashpoint, by the way. There's some rumbling that they could happen on LAN.
They want to do LAN?
I mean, that's what I've heard. That's
always
there's under consideration.
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously,
if they want to do it on LAN, they're not going to force it, but they're going to want to do it. Ideally, if they can find a solution, that's obviously going to be the best way to do it. No one wants to do these tournaments online, but if they can find a feasible, safe solution, they're of course going to try and do it online.
Yep, exactly.
There's certain places everybody can fly to at the moment, right? Like London's one of the places which seems to just open to everywhere in the world.
Oh, yeah, they don't care at all. London's just like, let everyone in, no problem whatsoever. Get in the pubs, go to nightclubs, have a dance, enjoy yourself.
What I thought was insane about the UK? Because obviously Henry was traveling from the UK to Malta. I was traveling from Malta to Germany. Like everything was happening like that. And in that whole window of time, like the UK was banned. Everyone was like, fuck the UK. Like Henry couldn't come back to Malta and I'm sitting there alone and thinking, Jesus, I'm getting bored. But the thing that happened was then when shit kicked off a little bit in Malta, UK went, nah, you can't go to, like, we're not letting anyone from Malta in. I was like, are you serious? What are you even talking about? You're on everybody's ban list besides the US, who are just as fucking stupid as you guys.
Yeah.
And it's like, and you now have the audacity to tell people they can't go. You're not even quarantining people. I was like, what are you fuckers doing? But anyway, it's all good now. Everything's kind of worked itself out in the wash. But yeah, $500,000. That's not bad. I like money, so I'm not playing. Unfortunately, I'm not playing, am I? Anyway, yet. That's the Cloud9 sign that you guys will all be waiting for.
The sixth man, Chad Burchell, comes in. Imagine that. That would be quite the play.
Me and Rush are serious. We're going to be on the Danger Zone team, mate. You know,
dude, I'm drafting some contracts right now.
What were the things in your tick boxes that you wanted to tick off? Talented, explosive.
Not old.
Not old.
So Chad has got to sort that out. He's going to show me a bit of a youthful side to him, that I'm not seeing right now. I'll be honest.
Benjamin Button style nonsense going on there. We're almost at the end of the show, so maybe we'll run a little bit over. Luke, is that all right? Run a little bit over. All right, we can run a little bit over. So we'll forget about the broadcast stuff because we were going to dig into that and bitch about our colleagues and all that kind of shit. But we'll go to the questions, Henry, because there's a lot of good questions coming from the community. Yeah, from the community. Right. Prof was making a list. So Lucas, play the playtime bumper. We'll take a breather and we'll be back in a couple seconds. All right, we're back. Yeah, we're back. Prof, you have a bunch of questions for Henry. You've been curating them from the community over Twitter and all this stuff. So I'll let you take the floor here.
Yeah, I'll kind of rephrase this, but a guy named David talking about like you going, like retiring from casting. And obviously weird year and everything that happened. What would it be like? How did you envision you stepping down from retirement in some like ideal scenario? And the second is like favorite game, like favorite moments from the career, right?
Yeah, very good question actually. Something I kind of commented on my interview with DK. I felt like I didn't get to do it in my way. I felt like it was a disservice to the entire community the way I had to go out, like not trying to blow my own trumpet or anything, but I feel like I have quite a good fan base, been part of this game for a long time, done some of the most iconic finals, biggest tournaments, majors. I got 10 majors in a row, for example. Like I should have been able to do it properly and in my way. I feel gutted that I can't do it. I would have liked to have done like a proper final with me, Chad, and Alex. We wanted to make that kind of trio a proper thing and actually bring that to bigger events as well. I'd have really liked to have explored that a bit further and kind of made that our new thing. The way my legacy is left with us kind of showing the trios could be a really viable thing. I thought, Chad, I'm not sure if you agree, what we are doing at like Pro League and stuff, I think we found like amazing balance. We found something really great there. I think we were really onto something. And I would like to have done that on a proper LAN event. I would like to have done that in arena with you guys and gone out ideally at a major, do a final. I was doing that, like our product we've been working on for like the last year or so, go out of a bang, really hone our craft in that respect and make sure we just put on just a crazy spectacle in an arena. And then I would like to have announced that was my last one and just go out and not go into the event saying like, oh, this is my last event, everyone feels sad. I wouldn't tell anyone until the event was over. Go out with a bang, make it the best possible shit we could ever do, and then call it a day. That was the way I wanted to do it. Like I said many times, it wasn't I was thinking about retiring before the accusations and stuff like that came in, but I definitely would have liked to have done it in my own way, and I had that opportunity to say goodbye to everyone properly. Like, sure, I'm still involved, and I'm still going to be here in Counter-Strike, but everyone knows it's not the same. Like, I'm never gonna have that one farewell cast where I can really just send it, give it the beans, and make sure I give everyone that experience one last time. And I think that's really sad. There was the second part of that question as well, right?
There's a different but similar question for the second part. It says,
okay,
what is Henry most grateful for in his years as a caster? I feel like that's a decent one.
I feel the opportunity I've been given, the platform to talk about the one thing I'm super passionate about in my life is Counter-Strike, and I always have been. Like, thinking back to my early teen years, like all I ever cared about, as soon as I found Counter-Strike when I was 13, 14, that's all I've cared about ever since. And for me to be given a platform where it's my job and I'm considered an industry leader in it, I get to do that day in, day out with my best friends. Like, I live with the guys I work with. It goes to show you how close we are in this group, and having to share those experiences with my friends, talk about the game I love, and do it in such amazing scenarios, like the stadiums we've got to do, some of the amazing games. To go back, I remember the other part of the question was, what is my favorite game, right? I thought about it for a while. I feel like at the PGL Krakow Major, where Matt and I got to do, it was Virtus Pro versus Immortals, I think, in the quarterfinals. It was like the last hurrah for VP, like them of being on a decent run. They were just on their way down. Just being in that arena, and like as we walked out, Matt and I, the whole crowd was like chanting HenryG, HenryG. We had the Polish corner out there, like the whole crowd was going nuts. And then Virtus Pro came out, and it was just the crazy experience. If you remember the Krakow Major, it was like the circle set up, so we had the stage in the middle, and just having a full fucking house of Polish fans. Even though Virtus Pro were getting banged out, every round they got, the sound wave that would come towards us, just like it would hit you. It would hit you like this huge force coming towards you. It was just like you could feel the hype, the energy, the kind of excitement around this team, and just the passion they have for Polish Counter-Strike and having a team that represents them, even though they were down and out. Just every round they'd pick up. Like, I got caught up in it as well, just getting caught up in, like, I wanted them to win. I was just, every round they'd get, I'd try and excite the fans and stuff. And for me, that's when I realized, it's like, this is so fucking cool what we're doing. Like, this is what it's all about. Getting this arena, genuine passion, and making sure that we've got a home crowd here. They're underdogs, they could make it. And regardless if they won or not, like, there was such a great atmosphere. We felt so welcomed there. So yeah, that definitely is like my favorite moment, favorite game. That I've casted thousands upon thousands of maps of Counter-Strike. It's difficult to really come down to a specific game, but that moment for me is something that I think about a lot in terms of what was the best moment. Where did I feel like this all made sense and I made the right choice? And that would be it.
I got a quick one for you, Henry. Would you come back and do the caches with me next year?
Yeah, if the price is right, chaps. Unfortunately, these days, I'm not just going to be bending over backwards. But yeah, that's something I think you and I created something very special there. It's a shame that's one of my biggest regrets. Why I think you and I showed that entertainment can be a big part of esports as well. It doesn't have to be super serious all the time. I feel like we built something very special there with the Australian kind of crowd and audience community, whatever you want to call it, and it's going to be missed. And I'm not sure whether it will come back again, but if we can find a way to make it work and it makes sense, for sure, let's definitely give it another go. But I'm not sure when that'll be. But yeah, just for the sake of how much I love those guys over there, like I would like to explore that option.
Maybe Cloud9 plays at the next Sydney or Melbourne, whatever it is.
That would be it. GM that would be it. If they were playing at the event, that's, I think, like we've got quite a good opportunity to get invites to these tournaments, because they kind of need me there, to be honest with you. I kind of bring quite a lot with me. Yeah. So hopefully that does transpire and we can make it work. But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, caches is certainly some of my fondest memories of the job we do. It reminds me it's not all about super serious casting. Like we can be ourselves and explore kind of the fun side of esports as well. So yeah, those are definitely fun memories.
We got it. More there, yeah. Prof, we got any more? Sorry, that was my bad.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that like the whole thing about the caches was literally 2 videos produced. It's not even like you put in like super big production value.
Wait, we did it all there.
Yeah,
we made it all up on the fly. We're just fucking, what's the idea? Henry, T, throw it in my face. All right, let's go. You know, like
that was so funny. That event was so crazy. I was like the second or third time we'd done it, and it's just like every 5 minutes someone's coming up to us like, we've got a camera here. Well, can you come over? I was like, oh, Chad and I can pretend to have a fight in the background while you're interviewing someone. And we'd go into an office and like be grabbing each other by the throat and like trying not to laugh. Like there'd be no microphone on us. And then we'd be getting ready at the end of the day. And Chad goes, Henry, I've got an idea. This cup of tea, I just want you to first throw it in my face or just knock it out my hand. I was like, all right, we'll just work. We didn't even plan it. We just sit down.
One take.
I would just like go into character. Like I can do it quite well. I'm quite good at this putting the mask on you, as it were. I can make it as like I can turn into a twat straight away. It's not very difficult for me. I'm sure you're aware. And just getting into that mindset of like, right, I hate Chad now, and I have to make him look like an idiot. So that was a lot of fun. And yeah, all on the fucking fly. And I'm so proud of how we all brought that together. It's like genuine passion of wanting to create something entertaining for people. You know, like we wanted them to feel like it was worth coming down to the event. Not even just the Counter-Strike. People were turning up just to come watch that. That was more hype than some of the finals in Sydney. Like people were more and like excited about the prospect of Chad and I potentially fighting on stage than they were watching the game. So thanks so much for all the players as well. They're always good sports. We never had anyone that let us down in that regard. Everyone always delivered. And hopefully we can do more stuff like that in the future. Like obviously I won't be as involved, but I think that there's certainly a place for that in CSGO.
Can you admit that the overtime was rigged? Right?
It wasn't. That was not scripted.
We didn't rig any of it. Like it always worked out as a perfect storm every single time. Like we wouldn't rig anything. It would always be the case. Like we'd turn up on the day. I would be finding my players on the morning of the caches. I'd be still confirming it. Everyone thinks it's like a big planned out thing months in advance. It's really not. It'd be the morning of the tournament. I'd be DMing players on Twitter. It's like, look, mate, I know you're not English. I just need someone to play in my team. Like, can you kind of just be on my team? I remember there's like Config and Dupree I had once. It's supposed to be Team UK. Like, what the fuck are we doing with those players in? But I'd have to just spin a narrative like, oh, we're just here to take down Chad. Definitely no planning in it. But it always just came together. Like you said, like overtime seems like it's a coincidence. It's just a very, very specific one, and it just worked out. Like it was good that Chad always won. Like we always gave them a run for their money, but they would always like them winning was always the most idyllic outcome, which we always got.
We got any other questions here?
Christine asks, are there things you learned in your time as a commentator that you actively use in your role as a GM, both in regards to CS itself and what makes players thrive?
Oh, I've only been a GM for 1 week, so difficult to really answer that one. I'll have to come back to that. I think I'll have a think now. In terms of, like, I think what I said about my relationship with players, not necessarily something I've learned, but having that in my repertoire and having a good relationship, I think, with almost every single pro, at least within the top 20 of teams. I feel like the level of respect I've built up through my commentary work and just by being at the events and getting to know the players, that's been the most useful asset I've found in this GM role. But I can initialize conversations. Players feel very comfortable talking to me about what their situation is, what they want to do in the future. They can be very candid with me, which I feel like if you're an anonymous GM coming in from like another game, for example, you're not really familiar, you haven't been to many events, players aren't going to talk to you. You're not going to get your foot in the door. I got my foot in the door. Like the moment I started this GM role, players were already coming to me just interested in my own plan. So not much I can necessarily transfer from the commentary world, I guess, like having presence on camera and being able to handle situations like this and being able to do lots of press releases, interviews in mainstream media, stuff like that will come in handy. But honestly, like I take more value away from my previous career when I was an event manager for lots of different games companies, most notably Activision. That's where I learned how to manage workloads, meet expectations, deadlines, delegate work out, and this combination of having the Counter-Strike knowledge from commentary and my event management role, which I did for 5 years at a very high level, it's kind of this is like my perfect job, I'd say. If you had to design a job for me to do, someone who's like just loves doing admin work and just delegating work out, making sure everything's on time, and someone who knows this Counter-Strike community can handle themselves out there, the combination of everything I've done in my life has like led me to this being, I thought would be my just ideal role. And I'm super happy with it. Like honestly, I wake up every day just excited about what is going to happen and what things I can kind of come up with and kind of design. It's quite creative as well. Like it's not like a traditional job where I'm just kind of going along and just doing the same old task every day. I wake up and think, how can I change this scene today? How can I innovate what we're currently doing? And how can I show that this can be better? So for me, that's a long-winded question to the original one, but there's lots of different layers to the whole thing. I'm super excited.
A few shorter ones.
Basically, what Christine wanted to know, I'm just going to follow up on that. What Christine wanted to know is if you used your skills as a commentator to hype up Alex to sign the deal.
Oh, I've known Alex for a long time. Whenever I speak to players, I always phone them. I never try and do it over text or anything like that. I'm a very persuasive, good talk. I can definitely sell a dream, but I'm always realistic. Like I said, like when it comes back to like the numbers I announced this week and stuff, I never like to pour it on too thick. I think I always try to manage expectations and make sure I can deliver on my promises, because it really won't look good for me if I promise them the world and it doesn't come through. I feel like the players just trust me because of my tenure within CS community, not just CSGO. Remember, I was a pro for 5 or 6 years before this as well. So like I get it. I know what their troubles are. Maybe not to the same extent at this point. We weren't making that sort of money, but I know what the players want, and I consider myself within the team of players. Like I don't want them to see me as like he's the suit that works for Cloud9. This is my 24-hour job. This is my passion. This is my legacy now. Commentary's gone. Like I've announced we're not going to be going back on the mic probably ever again. I have no desire to do it. I think I've completed everything I wanted to do, and this is what I want to do now. So yeah. Didn't have to convince him with my commentary power, but everything coming together that I've mentioned certainly assisted in getting the most in-demanding game leader right now when I didn't have a roster. There's certainly something to be said there.
Are all salaries going to be the same for among the players?
No, definitely not. I don't know where we got this mentality from, because everyone has different values. I'm bringing in a couple, maybe 1 or 2 rookies as well. I don't know where we got this crazy mindset where players don't understand that there's brand value, there's different roles that are more in demand, and like if you can't handle the fact that your teammate's getting paid more than you, get better. You'll get paid the same amount. It's crazy. Like every player, depending on where they come from, their fan base, their skill level, their role, there are just so many different variables to go into their final paycheck, and it depends how good their agent is as well. You know, like it comes down to the agent getting the job done and kind of persuading me they're worth X amount of money. I go into every deal knowing what I would like to pay them. I'm willing to be convinced otherwise, and I'll take their previous salary into account as well. Make it very clear. Like, although the salaries will be announced to some extent, no player will be getting the same amount. They'll be getting what I think they're worth and what deal we can strike up with. There's so much to go into it. But yes, to answer your question, no one will have the same salary. Everyone will be like a traditional sports team. Everyone will have their own deal, their own contracts, and I'm not going to be sharing that information in terms of the very specifics when a new player joins. But by the way, this guy's making X amount. It's just not important. Worry about your own deal and worry about your own seat. That's really the way it should be going.
We even had franchise players back in the CGS, and this is going 12 years ago, right? There was in every team, because he was like the face. He was the one who was going to bring more of the eyes, or he was the best player for either, like, let's say he was the FIFA guy or the Forza guy or whatever the fucking game it was. He got paid more. Right, and that's the way it worked back then, and that was 12 years ago.
Yeah, like players are like not so much in esports, but let's just use this as an example. Players are going to sell the jerseys and get the fans on the seats. That's why they're worth more. Like, sure, what they're doing on the server is very important as well, but that has to be taken into account. We're running a business there. We need a fan base. We need supporters coming in, and if you are a player that brings a lot of that with you, that there's importance there. Like if you look at the Dignitas guys, for example, not having the best results right now, but they have got huge brand value and huge followings and stuff. So that's still attractive to some extent, and still gives them a decent paycheck and a decent value within the industry. So yeah, like no one will be paid the same. Everyone has their own kind of variables going into it, and I take all of that into account.
What we got next, bro?
There was a question about like video content, video series following the team. Is that something that is high on your priority, like content and stuff like that?
Definitely. I just want to make sure I do it the right way. Certainly, I wanted this to be documented, this journey. I think this is quite historic, what I'm doing in terms of this approach. And I want to make sure, even if it goes wrong, let's work out why. Let's have it documented. I haven't worked out that just yet, but I'm definitely going to look into not necessarily like a documentary sort of piece, but I want to document the journey in general. I don't want it to be a massive over the top thing. Like I think that'll be too stressful for initial stages. But yeah, I would like to create some video content. I commented on my players in general not having to stream. I'm not sure what your guys' opinion is on that, but a lot of pro players are expected to stream maybe 40 hours a month right now. That to me is like the craziest thing in general. Like that's like asking a professional basketball player to attend a children's party after he's finished with his practice with the crowd. Like it's weird that you would ask him to do that, to fulfill that as an obligation. And that's just for the organization. It doesn't really do much for the player at all. If they're asked to do it, it's distracting, I think. So I want to find a balance of creating content that doesn't distract players and hopefully gives an insight as to what we're doing and our mission and objective. But to answer your question, I just don't know what that will look like.
I got one for you, Henry. Are your players going to be able to be little bitches and dodge interviews when like, oh no, Alex will do it because he's the in-game leader? Are you going to like actually make them fucking talk? Like, what's the go from that standpoint?
Sorry, say again. You cut out a little bit the first half. I think my headset's giving it.
To do with like players and interviews and stuff, right? Because we you know, from our end, like Tom will request one. We want this guy, and they're like, oh, they don't want to come.
This is where I can shine. In this role, I am definitely going to be teaching these boys how to build their brand, how to handle themselves on camera, stop shying away from the fucking mic. Like every time a player does that, turns down an interview, doesn't want to do it, you are only hurting yourself. Your English might not be up to a level you're comfortable to be on camera, but you need to fix that. Your brand is everything. Once you'll become a day in this career, in your Counter-Strike professional career, that it all kind of comes to an end. You're seeing a lot of players phase out now. And at this point, if you don't have anything left, you've never been on camera, you've never kind of built that brand up, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. And I'm going to make it very clear that these players, although it might be a little bit scary to begin with, work with me. I will show you how to build your brand, how to handle yourself on camera. It's not that difficult. You just got to have a bit of confidence. And that's something I'm going to work with them on. That I don't think Alex will be like that. Alex is actually, he's super witty and
he's
actually
good.
A funny dude. Like he's got a really strong personality. He just hasn't been shown yet because obviously like was playing in a French team before, a little bit kind of strange. I'm really going to embrace his personality. I want to show the world that he has got it. He's got the banter in him as well, and he's got some fire. Yeah, so I'm gonna work with him and help him build his brand and kind of get his persona going on camera a bit more. I'm going to do that for all my players. Like I said, this is a 24-hour-a-day job for me. Like I want to make sure that every facet, if they want to grow in that regard, fantastic. But I don't want them to have to force to be doing things like streaming and stuff. They want to work with me and build their brands. I will really encourage that and help them kind of present themselves on camera.
And Alex has never been that to dodge an interview. Like I don't remember the one time where I had a problem with him at all.
No, he's going to be great. I'm just going to work with him and try and improve on that. Bring out the personality.
I guess we can do like one short one, maybe a bit longer, and then we can finish it up because we've been going a bit over the limit. Gamer Socks, big name. Have there been any Oceanic Asian players in the discussion for the roster?
Not only because of the time frame I have, and especially in Australia, international travel is cancelled. I need a team for November for Flashpoint. So not really an exciting answer for you. Definitely had a couple of talks with players over there, but the conclusion is, can you travel to Europe? Yeah, I'm not sure when. And that's kind of it. Would love, like you said, Dexter's fucking great. Would love to work with him, but no players from Australia can travel. And if I'm building a team for November, it's just not feasible for me to even try and make that happen. I need to focus my efforts elsewhere. So
JKS though, that's another story.
Definitely another story, but also a very expensive story.
That's true.
I'd imagine.
That's true. Little star player, little top 20 over there.
Definitely. I'm a big fan of JKS. I'll say that much.
Okay. Erwin asks, what do you hope to achieve with Cloud9 in the next 2 years? Because somehow we didn't even touch on like your goals here with the team.
My mission when I first signed up to this job was Cloud9 need a top 10 team. I want to make a top 5 team. I expect to at least do that within 2 years. I think that's even a little bit too far down the road. I'd like it to be within a year we're a top 10 team at least. I'm obviously setting the expectations very high because I feel like the approach we've got is fantastic. I don't feel like anyone's had this approach with our resources before, and the players we have in mind, it's just coming together really nicely. And I will have no idea until we get everyone on the server to see how it all clicks. But in terms of what we're building and my objectives and what I have available to me, it would be embarrassing if I didn't have a top 10 team within a year. Like the players we're bringing in, the amount of resources and staffing we're going to have behind them, it would be on my shoulders if it went wrong, and I will take that responsibility. But I think within a year, we will have a top 10 team in our hands.
Okay. Is that it, Prof? We're good there?
Yeah, I think we did.
That's a good way to leave it. That's like almost like a HenryG mic drop moment, but I'll let him pick it back up. Henry, do you want to say anything before we shut this one down?
Thank you so much for the love and support I've had. Like this has obviously been a very dark and strange period of my life, probably the darkest I've ever been through. And I know it's quite a cliche thing to say, but honestly, the love and support I've had from the CSGO community is one of the main things that's kept me going. Like at some points, I was just like, oh, maybe I should just hang it up and just leave CSGO alone. Like this is not going to be recoverable. But the love and show and support that I've got, and people kind of celebrating the fact I've joined Cloud9 and stuff, it's really invigorated me and shown me that there's still plenty of opportunities for me to go forward and grow. Commentary wasn't the be all and end all. I still feel like there's a lot more I can do within this role and in the future at Counter-Strike. Thanks so much to Jack Etienne for taking a chance on me. Like he really has taken a gamble and given me the keys to the car. I won't let him down. I'm going to do everything I can to prove that this was the right move. I know it's an audacious one from their organization, but one I'm definitely going to give my absolute all to, and I hope I don't let them down.
All right, that's a perfect way to end it here today, ladies and gentlemen. Episode number 7, I believe it was, HLTV Confirmed. If you want to find the audio only, anchor.fm/HLTV. We're going to do a rerun tonight on Twitch at 8 p.m. CEST. That's 2000 for those of you working in that type of clock. Twitch.tv/HLTV.org. Not H.org, just HLTV.org. You're already here anyway, so I'll tweet about it. It doesn't really matter. We'll be back next Monday. I want to try and get Simple on the show, but he's ghosting me at the moment, which is basically the story of my life. So, look, we're going to get that worked out. Striker and Prof, say goodbye.
Yeah, I want to ask, like, Henry, when do we expect some next bit of news?
Good. I like that. Jesus. That's good. Nice. What's the date today? I'm honestly running on a day-to-day basis right now. I hope I can announce the next player by the latest of, let's say, the 20th of September, if not before. I want to do it on the 18th, the Friday. I think that's a good time to do it. I've got 2 players ready to be announced. We just need to sign the dotted line. That's pretty much like that. That's where we're at. So hopefully that everything goes well today. I can announce a player this week, but don't hold me to that. This industry, as I'm learning day by day, as much as I am enthusiastic, I'd like that things go my way, things can change on a dime pretty quickly. But hopefully I'll have something for you within a week, and it is going to be hype as fuck. Watch this space. It's going to blow some minds. It's going to be very good.
Perfect. All right. We're back next Monday. Lucas, if you can raid Simple's stream with some kind of like message to get him to come on the podcast next Monday, that'd be great. We're going to shut this one down. We've run over. Lucas has to go run some Danish league or some shit that's been going on over there. Thank you to Henry. Thank you to everybody for watching. And we'll catch you next time. Peace out, O-Town West Side.